Okay.
Yes,
you
I'm
wanna-
here, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Cheryl's here. Rick, you want to do
Yeah.
a roll call of the members?
Okay, I
This conference will now be recorded.
see everybody that's on the screen. We have a full board, all 8 members. Okay. The planning board of Orangetown Planning Board of June 15th is now in session. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. If anybody is here for PB 20-22, which is 119 Tweed Boulevard, it will not be heard tonight. It has been moved to, I believe, July 8th meeting. So if anybody's here for that meeting, it will not be heard. Okay, the first item on the agenda is PB 20-28, Bethay Mar Tom Church Plan. This is for final site plan review. Who's doing this? John, is that?
Yeah, John Axel, Nasher, and Ziegler, surveyors and engineers for the project. Have Frank Phillips for the project.
Frank Phillips from the law offices of Phillips and Millman on behalf of the applicant, Bethany Mar Toma Church. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. We represent the applicant.
Okay, just briefly, you want to describe your project again?
Sure. It's been since we've been back.
Go ahead, John.
It's been a while since we've been back before the board. This is for a 2,800 square foot addition to an existing building that was a former restaurant located on Old Orangeburg Road. We've been to Akabor and the Zoning Board of Appeals. We have to go back to the Zoning Board of Appeals. We're on the agenda this Wednesday for reinstatement of the variances because they've expired. We read through the comments. I do have one thing about regarding Mr. DeGennaro's comments. We've addressed all his comments except for number 8. I'm not sure if he missed them on the plans, but I put a call into him. I wasn't able to speak to him today, but all been addressed except for new number 8.
Okay, we'll go through them now. When we come to that, we can discuss a little bit. Okay. So Building, Zoning, Planning Administration, Jane Slavin, June 12th. She has 2 items. Environmental Management and Engineering, April 28th. Bruce Peters has 5 items.
Yes.
Okay, Booker Engineering, June 12th. The applicant is proposing to reduce impervious areas and maintaining existing drainage patterns. Significant detail has been provided to demonstrate that potential significant impacts with respect to the drainage can be mitigated. We therefore recommend that the Bethay Mar Tom Church site plan be approved for drainage subject to the above project conditions, comments, and there are 8. Now, you said you had a problem with one of them?
No, we don't have any problems with any of them. We've addressed 1 through 7 in this submission now. I'm not sure if he just missed them or what, but I did put a call into him. We will work it out with him in the end anyway.
Okay, thank you. Next is Rockland County Department of Planning, April 22nd. They have 7 items. The only one that I saw that I haven't seen any comments on is number 2, is a review must be completed by the Rockland Psychiatric Center and any comments or concerns addressed by them. I saw that the New York State Division of Military and Naval Affairs has commented on it. Cheryl, have you received anything back from the Psychiatric Center?
No, I haven't, but I believe the person who responded for the Division of Military Naval is for the Rockland County Psych. Rockland County, it was passed over to Rockland to them from Rockland County Planning, as well as I sent one to them, but this is what I got back.
Okay, so we shouldn't have to worry about, again, there's those two. Again, there's 7 items. Rockland County Sewer District number 1, September 7th of 18. Doesn't object to the plans. Okay, New York State Parks, Recreation, and Historical Preservation. Based upon this review, it is the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historical Preservation opinion that your project will have no impact on archaeological and/or historical resources listed in or eligible in New York State National Register for Historical Places. I have a narrative dated March 12th from Adler. I have narrative dated January 14th from Adler. I have a letter, David Howell. This is enclosed, the original duty executive of the Joseph Home, a mutual easement and joint sewer line maintenance agreement involving the Joseph Home. Okay. And that's it. Is there anything else, Cheryl?
No, that's it.
Thank you very much. Okay, questions or comments? Mr. Young, questions or comments?
Nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mandel?
There's a couple of questions. Going back to the ZBA for an extension of time from on the variances you received. Are you writing any new variances or are you going with the old ones?
We're staying with the variances that were already approved on November 7th, 2018, which is the FAR, the front yard, the side yard, the total side yard, maximum building height. Those are going to be the same ones. What happened was that our client was working on comment number 2 from Bruce Peters, which was to work out a resolution with the neighboring property owner, which was St. Joe's, regarding the easement. After much research into the title and surveying that was done, we were able to reach a resolution. It did take a period of time. The parties were out at the site. I did provide to your attorney, the planning board attorney, Mr. Piccola, Rich Piccola, the easement, mutual easement and joint sewer line maintenance agreement, which is also attached, which you referenced by Mr. Howe, who is their attorney. Because of it was teed up for filing in March, but however, because of the coronavirus and the clerk's office being shut for a period of time, I spoke to Donald Lynch, who is the title of West Shore Abstract, and he is filing it or getting the receipt for us, hopefully by tomorrow. So that's all taken care of now. So that's why there was a delay, and now we have to go back to the zoning board to reinstate the variances or extend the period of time because the time had elapsed.
Okay, and that includes the driveway?
Correct.
Okay, all right. That's the only questions I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sweeney?
I have no further questions this time.
Thank you very much. Mr. Dell?
Thank you, sir. Obviously, this is almost what I refer to as a campus type setting. Everything basically is enclosed by the RPC property. The building itself has a very interesting history, the existing building. However, it never really had any amount of occupancy at any time in terms of traffic, etc., and parking. Right now, my only concern with it is that the drainage runs directly into that intermittent stream, whatever you wish to refer to it as, without any method of stopping anything, oil, etc. I think we should consider putting some sort of oil separator in there because of the going to have an increase in traffic, whereas before it wasn't a problem and now it could be one. It's a minor point. I would like the board to consider that option because here's a chance to fix something which has been existing for, I think, my memory goes back about 50 years on this, 40, 50 years. Thank you very much, sir. That's all.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Andrews.
Mr. Chairman, I have nothing at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. McCory.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a couple questions. I think you cleared it up on Bruce Peters number 2. If you enclose that fence along the western property, the property still has a driveway leading out to Old Orangeburg Road, right? So it's not a big deal if that fence continues down that line, right?
Yes, it does have its access to Old Orangeburg Road, and actually the fence location is per the request of Joseph's home.
All right, yeah, it always looked weird that there was 2 driveways trying to get into that place. And on the eastern side of the property, it looks like you're doing a nice separator with some grass. What's going on with the eastern side of that grass? Looks like you use it for parking now. Are you guys done using that for parking?
Yes, that will not be used for any parking. We can only actually go up to the property line. Macadam on the east side of the property line actually is under ownership of the, I believe it's the state. So our parking lot will be fully closed by curb, and we will have no access to that additional area on the east side of the east property line.
All right, good. Yeah, it looks like a bit of an improvement for what's been there. So that's it for me. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Bond. Turn your mic on. I can't hear you. There you go.
No, I'm good.
Okay, I didn't hear you. Are you okay?
Bruce, turn it back on.
Yes,
there you
I'm
go.
fine. I'm fine with everything. I'm good.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I'm gonna open this up to the public. If anybody from the public wishes to speak on this. I hear somebody. I hear two mics. I hear no background noise, so I thought somebody turned their mics on.
Yeah. Chairman, I don't see anybody.
Okay, I got one more time. Is anybody from the public wish to speak on this? Okay, hearing none. I'd like to have a motion to close the public session. Wait a minute, Mr. Dell, you have a comment?
Yes, before you go ahead, I just wanted to get the applicant's feeling on the concern I raised about possibly some sort of oil separator and what the board feels like, how the board feels disposed towards that option.
Well, our position is that your drainage consultant and Bruce Peters has reviewed these plans, and neither one of them have called for a drainage, an oil water separator, and it's not required under the code.
I'm not saying that it is required, and I'm not saying that they mention it, but it is something that would probably be a desirable fix to put in this particular time. And maybe the other board members, if they don't agree with me, okay. But you are going to be radically increasing the amount of parking that's happening there and the amount of vehicles, I assume.
No, we're actually...
Maybe before anything like this even existed, the idea of an oil separator. This is back when, you know, you used to oil the roads. So we're in a different time now. Do any of the other board members have any feelings one way or the other? If you don't agree with me, it's just one.
My comment would be that both our drainage consultants looked at it, both Bruce Peters and Booker Engineering, and neither of them picked up on that. They're usually pretty quick on something like that. I understand what you're saying, Bill, but I don't know if there's really a need for it. Do any of the other board members feel that they should put an oil separator or anything, you know, change their drainage?
I don't see a need for it.
Okay, Mr. Bond, we'll go right through. Mr. Gregori. Okay, Mr. Young?
I don't think it's needed, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. McCory?
I understand Mr. Dell's concerns, but, yeah, I was looking at the consultants, and if they're fine with it, I got no, I'm not gonna go against that.
Okay, Mr. Swady.
I am okay with the consultant's recommendations.
Okay, Mr. Andrews.
I'm good with the consultants also.
Okay, Mr. Mandel.
I'll go with the consultants on this one.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you
Okay.
very much, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dell. Can I have a motion to close the public session, please?
Mr. Andrews makes a motion to close the public portion.
Okay, and Mr. Young seconds it. All in favor? Aye. Okay,
Aye.
any opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. Thank you very much. So we can move with, I think we have to reaffirm, C on this. So can I have a motion to reaffirm?
Motion to reconfirm.
Somebody's talking. I don't know who's talking.
Motion to reconfirm secret.
Okay, Mr. Mandel, says to reaffirm CEQA. Do I have a second on that? Mr. Young seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? None. Okay. So I make a motion for final with conditions. Do I have somebody make that motion?
I move to make that motion with conditions.
Okay, and the conditions would be, number one, I think they had to go back to Akabor and get what do you guys got to get from Akabor? They have to reinstate your, whatever it is, I don't know. Don't you have,
ZBA, not act-
Zoning Board of Appeals, it's in my
ZBA.
comments, sir. Yeah, it's in my
Okay.
comments.
all right, let's, okay, so if you satisfy that comment, then we have no problem. Okay, ZBA. Okay, so the
ZBA.
conditions are, Jane Slavin, June 12th, 2 comments. Department of Environmental Management and Engineering, Bruce Peters, April 28th, 5. Booker Engineering, June 12th, has 8. Department of Planning, Rockland County Department of Planning, April 22nd, have 7. Rockland County Sewer District Number 1, September 7th of 18. Don't ask me why. They have 2. New York State Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation, September 17th, 2018, their letter. And that's all I have. Okay. Cheryl, anything else?
That's it.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second?
Mr. Mandel.
Young seconds.
Mr. Young seconds. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? No opposition. You got it. Thank you very much.
Thank
for
you.
your
Have a
help.
good night, everybody.
All right, thank you. Okay, next item is PB 20-29. K-Rail Site Plan, Final Site Plan Review. Is anybody here for them? Oh, you got to speak up. No.
Yes, here. Sorry, I just turned on my microphone. My name is Aiden Calkin. I'm the project architect. I represent Stage Arch Design. And Mr. Carl is here, the owner.
I'm
Okay.
here also.
Okay, very good. Do you want to briefly explain your project again, please?
Sure. So our application is for a new shed that is supported, that is designed over the existing shed's foundation walls. The existing shed was in really poor condition, so Mr. Carell decided to demolish the roof, which was in very, very bad condition. He was very concerned, and then he would like to. Actually, he started building the new shed. And now our application is to legalize this new shed. The latest plans that we submitted to the planning board we proposed the reduction in size of this new shed so that it complies with all the zoning regulations, the setbacks and the building height. And then we were asked to go through the ACABO review, the architectural board, and we received the approval from the architectural board. And now we are back with the planning board.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll go through the comments. Office of Building Zoning Planning, Jane Slayton, June 12th. She has one comment. Department of Environmental Management and Engineering, Bruce Peters, April 28th, has one comment. Rockland County Planning, April 22nd, they have two comments. Rockland County Highway Department, May 4th, they have two comments.
Mr. Chairman, before you go any further, number one, this is Rockland County Highway Department consents that the town of Clarkstown Planning Board service lead agency. That's going to be corrected.
Yeah, I didn't understand that either. Jay, do you have any kind of, or Cheryl, either one, why item 1 says that the Rockland County Highway Department wants the Clarkstown Planning Board as lead agent?
I would think it's a typo on their part.
Yeah, I would guess a typo. Copy and paste. They didn't catch it.
Yeah, I don't think it's a significant issue for this. If they didn't get back to us within 90 days, we have it. We're lead agency in their standpoint. And I think this is clearly just a typo. So I don't think it's an important issue.
Okay, okay. Thank you. I have an email from Miss Buck dated June 11th. I don't know, I heard somebody talking, I don't know what it was. Well, wait, I'm gonna read it in. We are the southern border neighbors of 1059 Route 59 with Mr. Correll. Once again, we wish to strenuously object to the structure proposed by Mr. Correll. The purpose of the new structure built without planning permission is alleged to be as a shed. There is a perfectly good existing stone shed structure beneath the illegal shed. This stone shed is more than adequate for storage. There is no need to build another shed on top of it. Timber structure built upon the stone shed serves no purpose whatsoever, only creates an environmental eyesore right on top of our property line. The existing timber structure should be dismantled, and Mr. Correll should use the existing stone structure if he wants the shed. Seriously, Nicholas and Abigail Buckworth. I have another email from ONUR dated June 12th. Dear Cheryl, we have done nothing to this building since December 2018. Please put this in your records. If there is any complaints, let us know. Okay, and that's all I have. Cheryl, anything else?
That's it.
Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Young, questions or comments?
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mandel.
Let's just have a couple of questions. You stated that you reduced the size of the shed from last time you were here. How much was it reduced by?
Let me show you the plan. So the proposed shed, the original shed was 3.8 foot from the property line. Proposed now currently on the narrow side, and currently it's 5'3".
Okay, so you're saying you went from 3.8 to 5.3 from the boundary line?
Yeah, the minimum setback from the property line is 5'3".
Okay.
And
Okay.
on the other
Mandel?
side, it's 6'10.5".
Mr. Mandel, the original old foundation is I think it's 3.8 feet. I'm trying to read this.
Yes, that's the existing foundation.
Right, and they originally proposed building right over that,
Correct.
and there was opposition to that, so they,
We were like 3 feet away from the property line at that time because we were trying to square off over the existing foundation wall. But now the new structure over the foundation is set back so that we comply with the side yard setback regulations, which is minimum 5 feet.
Mr. Mandel, the structure that's going to be sitting on top of the original foundation, the new portion of it has been set back to meet the zoning requirements.
Yeah, it was hard to tell from the plans that they gave, but it looked like it was back from the 3.8 to the 5 feet. That was the question we had last time. We had asked them to move it. I just want to confirm that it had been moved.
Based on the plans that I reviewed, they have.
Thank
The
you.
original foundation is going to remain, but the structure that's being added was set back.
Okay. All right. This comment, the old shed, I took a look in the old shed underneath there. It's not fit for any storage or anything at this time, so thank you. No further questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Sweeney? Mr. Sweeney? Did we lose Mr. Sweeney? Well, okay, let me go to Mr. Dell.
Thank you, sir. A couple of questions. It looks to me by the location of this, you're proposing to use this as sort of like a changing room for the pool. What's the function of this going to be?
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Mandel asked my
Go ahead.
questions. Why I added this time. Yeah, I'm
Mr.
talking. You
Sweeney,
hear me?
your
Hello?
Mr.
connection
Sweeney,
doesn't
turn
seem
your
to be
mic off,
good.
please.
You don't hear me?
We're getting,
I hear.
thank you. Okay. Can anybody answer Mr. Dell's questions?
No, I was wondering if Mr. Carrell would like to answer this question.
This proper, like the existing shed underneath was for pool equipment, and as Mr. Mandel said, it was in no condition to store anything. Now new property on top of that old foundation is going to be used the same, for the same purpose.
Okay, so there will not be any changing facilities or an extra bathroom or shower or anything like that?
Oh, you mean the new structure, right? You're asking about the proposed structure? There's no plumbing. Yes. There's no plumbing proposed. There's power. There's there's a ceiling fan and there are outlets in there. But no kitchen, no bathroom.
All right,
No
let me ask another question. Are there any windows on that south elevation?
Yes, actually, let me show you the rendering. We have a rendering.
Not
yeah, because I don't see a rendering in my package.
For the south side, no, not on the south side.
No, that's the side facing the neighbors. Correct. So
no, there are windows there.
All right, that's good. Is there any proposed lighting here?
We are proposing 2 sconces on both sides of the French doors. The entrance to the storage is from the pool deck. We are proposing a double door, French door, and on both sides there will be wall sconces exterior lights, and inside there's lighting. There's a ceiling fan inside with with lighting.
I understand. I think one thing that might make it, because you're in a critical environmental area, you now have 5 feet, you now have room for possibly putting some evergreen plantings to provide some screening for your neighbor to the south.
It's
Would that be
already
an issue?
Mr. Dell,
Up in the air.
they're not
Sorry?
changing the foundation. The foundation, the old foundation is remaining. Okay, but the addition of this level is being set back. So they didn't gain, they didn't gain any space to plant any trees. The foundation's still 3.8 feet off the property line.
Okay, we still could plant a few ups on the upslope of this area, correct? Couple of evergreens there.
We are not planning to plant anything other than what we have in existence. Because there is no, like, whatever we have, we are going to keep them. We are not going to cut anything, or we are not going to add anything. But the plants, I don't know what you mean by evergreen. You know, we have some plants in front of the, what was that, west side of the building, and the south side of the building is also, you know, it's the fence and the vegetation between us and our neighbor.
Okay, well,
This is rendering. I guess this side. This is the. So there's a tree. This is the rendering of that shed. So this is an existing tree there, between the entrance door and the fence. I mean, the door to the shed and the fence. There's an existing tree. I'm not sure if it's evergreen or not. And there are some trees behind here. I'm not sure if these are in the neighbor's property or in Mr. Cornell's property.
Okay, I just want to hear, I think that's sufficient. If the neighbor to the south is here, I'd just like to hear their concerns. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let me go, Mr. Sweeney, are you there?
I'm here. Do you hear me now?
No. Yes, I hear you, but I don't see you.
I'm on the screen. I see myself.
I see him, Mr.
We
Chairman.
have to scroll down.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Sweeney.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I had to reboot. No, what I was saying is that I agree with Mr. Mandel's questions, and I have my answers. So I'll wait to hear if there's any public comments.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Andrews.
I was out at the site today, took a look at it. Really, I don't think there's enough room to put any type of vegetation that would grow large enough. It would probably just die, but there's a lot of vegetation along that side. So I don't think there's any need for any more landscaping down there. That's the only comment I have.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. McCory.
Thank you, Chairman. Just looking at the plans, looks like it's a better plan. They're accommodating what the neighbors wanted. There's no variance issues. It seems like this plan keeps coming back to all the boards. Now, you had no problem with Akabor, right? They liked how it looked?
Yes. Yes, because we are using the same materials with the existing building. So it architecturally it fits with the main house, with the design, the windows and everything. So so we got the approval, yes.
Yeah, all right. And you had reduction in size. And what was the height for this?
Let me see. It's also, there's a calculation on there. I think it's around like 14 something. It's under 15 feet, which is the maximum permitted. Hold on.
All right.
14'2", that's the average. If we calculate all the sides, I calculated the average height on each facade, and then the average of all those comes to 14'2".
All right.
And
Yeah,
the height is,
it looks,
is the midpoint of the roof, which according to the zoning.
right. And then just my final comments are that the property to the south, they have a pool as well and a shed for their pool close to the fence line.
Correct.
Is that the correct? Yeah.
That
So
is
they have a
correct.
shed. They're using a shed for their pool, and you're building a shed for your pool, and you moved it away from the fence. And there's a lot of screening to the south. I see there's a lot of trees, and it's pretty good screening between the properties, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, actually, Mr. Carell built a new, replaced the fence there. It's a brand new fence at the property line.
Yeah. All right. That's all I had to say. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Bond?
I'm okay with it. They seem to have met everything that we asked them to do, so I'm good.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to open it up to the public. Anybody wish to speak on this, please let us know.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Buckworth, do you hear me?
Okay, yes, go ahead. State your name and address, please.
Yes, Nicholas Buckworth, 1059 Route 9W.
Yes, sir.
I'm the author of that document you read out on June the 11th. I have nothing to add to that because I think it's self-explanatory, but I do want to emphasize that the shed that was sitting underneath the new shed is perfectly serviceable. It's made by stone. And if it's just used for storage, which is what a shed is for, then putting another shed on top of it substantially diminishes the value of our property, and we feel aggrieved by that. We've made this point before, so there's no point in repeating it. But one of your members just said that we have a pool shed. We do, but it's for recreation, the pool shed. That's its purpose. It has a bar and all those sorts of things. And now it has an unnecessary shed stuck straight in front of it. So we keep making that point, but obviously you've taken a different view from us.
Can I ask you a question? Who decides that it's unnecessary?
Excuse me, you addressed all your questions and comments to the board, not to anybody else.
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Buckworth, are you done, sir?
I am, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, shut your mic off then, please. All questions and comments will adjust to the board, and then we'll ask questions or anything else, okay? Is there anybody else from the public that wishes to make a question or comments on this? I'm gonna ask one more time. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to close the public session.
I move to close the public portion.
Mr. Young makes the motion. Mr. Mandel seconds. All in favor? Okay, anybody opposed? Any opposition? None, hearing none, okay. So we're gonna reaffirm CEQA on this. Make a motion, have somebody make a motion to reaffirm.
This is to reconfirm CEQA.
Mr. Mandel makes the motion. Mr. Young, okay.
Mr. Young seconds.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, any opposition? Any opposition? Okay, hearing none, we confirm it. Okay, so I have a motion for final with conditions. Do I have a
Young.
motion? Mr. Young, okay, and the conditions are? Okay, wait, well, let me go through the conditions. Jane Slavin, June 2nd letter, one item. April 28th, Department of Environmental Management, one item. Rockland County Planning, April 22nd. We have two items. Rockland County Highway Department, May 4th, has two items, and we're questioning the validity of number one. And then there's those are the only conditions. And then we just have some narratives that we've read into it. Cheryl, I don't think there's anything else, is there?
That's all there is.
Okay, thank you very much. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Mr.
Andrew
Mann?
seconds.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, aye. Anybody opposed? Mr. Dell, you have opposition? Okay, Mr. Dell opposes. Okay, so that's right now, that's okay, it's one opposition, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for, and 1 against. Am I correct? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, you have your final. Thank you, sir. Good luck with the project.
Thank you very much. Be safe, stay safe.
Okay, thank you very much.
Leaving now.
The next project is PB 20-03 Chefman Site Plan. Is that you, Mr. Brenner?
Yes, it is.
Thank you, sir. Could you explain what you're doing?
I also have Mr. Higgins. Mr. Higgins, are you with me tonight?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Donald.
Okay, Mr. Higgins is the engineer. I am the attorney for it. This is an existing industrial building which is located on Corporate Drive. The owner of the building wishes to expand the building. He requires additional areas so that he can possibly serve his clients. He's been before the board several times. We were finally able to get a design which the consulting engineer has given approval. You have that letter tonight. We would like to proceed with the project and hope to build it as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you, sir. Excuse me just for a minute. Okay, let me go through the consultant's reports. Office of Building, Zoning, and Planning, Jane Slavin, June 15th. She has 11 concerns, 11 items.
We will discuss, I believe, number 4. There is a question in reference to the rear yard. It is a legal question which we will take up with the zoning board. The notes in our statute specifically says adjacent to an R district in the town. This is not, this is a state line. There's many cases which you had before your board where you had state line and town lines, and that section has not been applicable.
Okay, thank you, sir. I know you're going to be coming back, so by the time you come back, you'll have that all straightened out. Department of Environmental Management and Engineering, May 28th. Bruce Peters has 29 items. Okay. Booker Engineering, June 12th. The proposed action has provided information to demonstrate that potential significant adverse impacts with respect to drainage can be mitigated. Therefore, we recommend that Chef site plan be approved for drainage subject to the above project comments, and there are 10. Okay. Town of Orangetown Bureau of Fire Prevention, May 1st. Douglas Sampath. He has 3 questions, 3 items. Okay, and that's all I have. I believe everything else has been. Do you have anything else? Did we lose Cheryl?
Hi, sorry about that. No, that's it. Everything else has been read into the record.
Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Young, questions or comments?
Nothing at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mandel, questions or comments?
Yeah, couple of comments. DEME, Bruce Peters, number 11, revised plan has less information in the January 15 plan. And we asked for revised plans, but it seems to have less information in this time. The other thing I'm looking at, there's no real landscape plan. See, on Mike's son, I'd like to definitely see a landscape plan, some sort of screening to the south. I know.
Mr. Young, please shut your microphone off. We're getting background noise.
When it says it only applies, it doesn't apply to Jersey properties. However, it's wouldn't be proper. First of all, we should have a landscaping plan for the site. Number two, there should be some sort of screening to the south to those neighbors there, because when you walk to the back of the property, you can't see the houses. It would be nice to have some evergreen screening there. On question, I'm looking at the plans. What do the asterisks indicate? Or stars, or whatever that thing is, 6 points, they're all over the plans. Can you explain those?
David, you hear the question?
I'm sorry, I was trying to understand the question. There was a question about something on the plan?
Yes, I'm looking at the plans, and you have, they're like asterisks of 6 points, they're all over the plans. So you say those are trees being removed, or something else? I can't tell. There's nothing in a legend that indicates what they are. Could you explain what they are to me?
Sure. We do have there's a label on the plan that says 14 evergreen trees proposed. The purpose of that was to provide the screening that you just mentioned to account for the grading and clearing that's going to be done for the drainage. So we are proposing the evergreen screening to buffer the property.
Where does that show it on the plans?
There's a label in the lower, I'd say the lower right-hand corner, just to the right of where it says State of New Jersey.
I see State of New Jersey.
Just to the right of the label, State of New Jersey, there's a call out, 14 evergreen trees proposed.
No, I don't see it on this, what I'm looking at.
What drawing number, David, and which drawing number?
Well, it's sheet 1 of 1 dated March 25th.
Hey, Mike, Mr. Mandel, Mr. Mandel, can you see my hand?
Got it, I'm looking at the other map, so.
Okay, thank you.
That was clearer than this one, all right. Can you show me, Tom, on that new diagram? That's 25th.
Yep. I'll pull the map up.
I'm looking to the right of the state of New Jersey.
It's right in the corner by where it says State of New Jersey. If you follow it across, maybe 3 or 4 inches, you'll see it.
Like it's a little box like a cloud. It's a little box like a cloud. It says 14 evergreen trees. It's pointing to the asterisks. Or what should be.
Jane, can you put this map up? Mr. Mandel, can you see what Jane has?
Okay, I'm trying to place it on my map. Oh, I see, 14, thank you. It's to the left of the state of New Jersey. Oh, it's the second, there's 2 New Jerseys on here. I'm looking at the right one, there's the left one. I think we need a proper landscaping plan. This is not a proper landscaping plan. It should say the type of evergreens that they're going to do, the size, the height of the evergreens, so we have a proper screening. And I think there were 2 maps asked for, they gave us this one. That's why Peter's wrote in there that there was less information this time than last time. So that's my comment on that. It's my opinion on this, on that one. Let's see. Just one question for Director Slavin. On that rear yard, what's required specifically as far as the buffer and the distance to the line? That 200 feet?
Well, again, it's the buffer and then the setback, but Mr. Brenner is saying that that doesn't apply if it's a state line. So he'll have to present that information to the zoning board.
Okay, good. No further at this time. I'll wait and see for public comment. Thank you for your assistance.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sweeney, did you come back? I saw you disappeared before. I don't see him. If he shows up, we'll go back
Now,
to him.
Mr. Sweeney's there, but
Mr. Sweeney,
he's fading in it. Go ahead, Mr. Sweeney. Can't hear you. His picture's there, no sound.
I don't see him.
Yeah, well, you have to scroll down because there's 36 people on the call.
Oh, God.
Mr.
You
Sweeney,
making me
can you call in? Okay, he's gonna try to call in, Mr. Chairman. Maybe go to the next member.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Dell.
Thank you, sir. I think Mr. Mandel's concerns are well taken. According to the scale of what I see here, these trees are approximately 20 to 30 feet on center. And according to this scale here, the trees are proposed to be 10 feet across. Are you going to be putting them in at that size? What's the scale we talking about? 10 feet high or 10 feet across?
We have not yet provided the detailed landscaping plan, but we certainly, appreciate the request for the information, and we'll do that on future submissions. Largely, our plan was really focused on the stormwater management and demonstrating to the town's drainage consultant that we had the means on site of mitigating stormwater management. Future submissions will certainly detail the landscaping information that you're looking for.
Okay, so I would like to, again, to see that, but usually in the rear of all of these lots, we left about 100 foot of woods. At least that was the way it was originally designed. I was involved in that some years ago. And it looks like you're coming to within about maybe 15 feet to the property line with your detention basin. Is that existing at this time? I don't think it is it?
Well, there is some drainage that runs in an easement along the southern property line of the property. And we're proposing our drainage to be between that easement and the proposed building, the building addition.
Now, I understand. Because if there isn't substantial landscaping there, you could always put in a retaining wall. I'm not saying you should have to, but I think you should definitely consider extending screening at least past the detention basin. In addition to what you have, and I think you should also extend it in a northwesterly direction. Now you seem to have me. See it again, this is hard to read. It's just like it's all free-handed and as if you took something that was cut and pasted and just, put it together. Usually we get something that's a little easier to follow. The scale also be better to see that at 1/8 equals 30. That would also make it a little clearer. But right now, it's something that I don't think it's to scale to the quality as the rest of your presentation is, and I would like to see details on that before I'd be comfortable about moving it along. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dell. Did Mr. Sweeney show up yet? No, okay. Mr. Andrews.
I agree with Mr. Mandel, Mr. Dell. The trees that you propose is 14 trees, and that's over a span of how many feet is that approximately? Mr. Higgins.
Let me just see, I can tell you. Roughly 250 feet, maybe.
14 trees, that's, doesn't appear as though that's going to be enough screening for that length, for that distance, unless you get some mature trees that you put in there. I can make some suggestions. I'd like to see maybe some green giant aphrodite. They'll get to about 25 feet in diameter, 30 feet high. And I would probably double the 14, make it 28, 240 feet. That would probably be enough screening for the neighbors to the south. I don't know, Jane, is this going back to Akabor?
Yes, they're still in the beginning process of this application. They have to go to the zoning board and Akabor.
All right, so they'll definitely have to have a landscape plan. So those are my suggestions to you, Mr. Higgins, and that's all I have right now.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McCory.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, just not to repeat what everybody said. Obviously, we need a landscaping plan, especially how it affects the south end of that building. At the other end of that, how many trees are you proposing to take away? Because it seems like right now the trees go right up to the wall, the southern wall of that property. So you're gonna remove a lot of trees for that, for the extension and for the detention basin, correct?
Yeah, I haven't done a tree count or a tree, survey or anything for the number of trees that were coming down. There is a bit of an open rear yard behind the existing building. That's pretty much where the addition's going. And then obviously there's grading and clearing needed for the drainage facilities, which is why we're proposing some trees in there. We certainly can increase the density and an extent of landscaping in that side. But to answer your question, at this time, I don't know how many trees would be coming down.
All right, thank you. I appreciate the effort into updating the landscaping plan, because we use that 100-foot buffer as untouched screening for the neighbors, and you're really diving into that buffer with the detention basin and the addition. And just one more note: you have a proposed fire access to the the west of that building.
Yes.
And that kind of dives down south and towards the state line there. You have handwritten in, a bunch of trees. Is that possible to put trees across that fire access, or is that just you went a little crazy with the trees there?
No, I think those they may be existing trees on the survey. I'm not sure, but no, we wouldn't be proposing those there. No, there wouldn't be any trees plantings across the fire access line.
All right, yeah, I just saw that just kind of popped out there. All right, that's the only comment. More landscape in the southern side. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bond.
Yeah, I agree. We need some more landscaping along the southern property line. So we can see the landscape plan after they come back to Akabor. We have to supplement it, then we can do it. So.
Thank you. Mr. Sweeney, did you make it back here yet?
I am here.
Okay, good. Questions or comments?
I have no extra comments besides what was said already.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to open it up to the public. Anybody in the public wishes to speak on this? Anybody in the public wish to speak on this project? One more time. Anybody in the public wish to speak on this? Okay, hearing none. Can I have a motion to close the public session?
I move to close the public session.
Mr. Mandel, do I have a second? Mr. Young, all in favor? Aye. Any opposition? None. Okay. Mr. Brenner, I think we have a lot of issues here, and I think most of it is in respect to a lot of landscaping. I know there's a lot of interest and a lot of concerns on this, and I think that we would really like to see a better plan, come back with something a little bit better, a regular landscape plan, something more of a little bit better on a site plan. I don't know if that's the board feels the same way, but I think the easiest way for you is possibly, if you wish, to ask for a continuation. I don't know what you want to do. That's up to you.
It is a thought, but
Why can't preliminary and go to the ZBA? I mean, that doesn't make any.
You're allowed to go to the ZBA. You're allowed to go to the ZBA now. And I think until you're able to go now. The new state law allows you to go there. I think.
But we sent people there, sent them back to us without any resolution. So I don't know whether that's really true or not, but I know that's, in theory, that's how it works, but whether you get any approvals, I don't know whether it's gonna happen or not, so.
Well,
I mean, we need to find out about that about that variance first, right?
Can I say something?
Mr. Chairman, I think even go to the zoning board, maybe you should poll the voting members of the board here to see what their feelings are, whether we're going to preliminary or we're going to deny it, and ask them to go for continuance.
Can I say something, please? Mr. Chairman, can I say something?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. We have a situation here where we're building an industrial rateable. We're conforming to the requirements in the park. There are buildings in the same kind of situation in the park right now that this client wants to build. We definitely have to please the planning board. We definitely have to please the zoning board. We definitely have to please ACABOR. The reason we're trying to move it is there are several variances here, which the zoning board has to make a decision. Let us go to the zoning board, and then we'll even come back and let you see the ACABOR application before we even go to ACABOR. But we would like to go to the zoning board. Now, the thought that we can go, it doesn't work because the zoning board says if we don't get an answer from planning board, we don't want to do it. The critical thing in this design was drainage, which we have taken care of. So I think proper compromise was let us go to the zoning board, let us get the variances if we can, and then we will come back to the planning board, show a landscaping outline even before we go to ACABOR. So I think we could satisfy both parties that way so that we can move the project along.
Okay, let me ask the town attorney. Don't they have the ability now, because I think the state passed a law that allows them to go to ACABOR?
Mr. Chairman, yeah, they can go straight to ZBA. What Mr. Brenner was referring to, I don't think it was 100% accurate, but what Mr. Brenner is referring to is if they go straight to ZBA, the ZBA will ask the planning board for some type of letter of comment on the project, which is what has happened in the past. But they can go straight to ZBA. I think Mr. Brenner has commented that there's a need to have this go a little bit more quickly, which is why he would rather get preliminary and then go to ZBA with preliminary. But Mr. Warren, to answer your question, there is a state law that does authorize a case like this to go straight to ZBA, but then it is a little bit more time consuming because when they go to the ZBA ends up sending a letter to the planning board asking for comment. And I think the last time that happened, our comment was something to the effect of, do your job. You know, it's not the planning board's job to determine variances. So the letter from the planning board really doesn't have much in it, at least what we did in the past.
It became a catch-22. That's what happened. So what I think I can satisfy the planning board, if we get the variances, we will come back to the planning board before we go to ACABOR. So that you have a landscape plan that you think is satisfactory.
Okay, Jane, do you have any comment on that?
I think at this point, if, there's outstanding variances that need to be addressed, that might be the best route. And then have them come back to the planning board with a complete application. There is a lot of information missing from this, but if they don't get the variances, the project can't move forward.
Okay, and the only way that we're going to allow them to go to ZBA is to give them a preliminary. If we give them pre-preliminary, can they go? Or does it have to be preliminary?
Got to be preliminary. Got to have a seeker.
Okay. I understand what quite a few of the board members feel, because there is a lot of missing information that we don't have. And in order for us to get that information, I could see they have to go further. I know, Mr. Mandel, that, I understand what you're saying. Just hold on, Mr. Dell. Let me finish. I know Mr. Mandel, is very concerned with the, landscaping and with the area in the back, as Mr. Dell is and as the rest of us are. We have some variances, that they have to satisfy. You know, I think we should allow them to go to ZBA and plead their case for their variances. If they get them, fine. If they don't, they don't. But they still have to come back to us. And pull the board and see what the board says if they want to do that, which way they want to go, right? Mr. Young.
I'm in agreement, Mr. Chairman. You're correct. They have to come back to a second. And Mr. Brenner is well aware that if Mr. Mandel's wishes here on the screening are not met, then we'll just shoot them down, shoot the project down. So I'm okay going to preliminary on this. And I'm good to ZBA.
Okay, Mr. Mandel.
No, I'm against the preliminary, not only the landscaping, the screening, and also what brought up, the trees or the not trees and the fire lane, the proposed fire access. There's a lot of missing information here. How far are they going into the buffer? How many trees are going to be removed there? Exactly where is that pond going to be, the retention pond? Is it going into the buffer? Is it almost to the buffer? How much land is going to be disturbed? We need a thorough plan that explains what's going on the site than we have here in this one page, which we do not usually accept. We usually want the landscaping plan. We usually want these things. I think it's setting up a bad precedent. If we keep going, we're making exception here, making exception there. So I vote against it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sweeney.
Yeah, if there's a procedure for getting preliminary, going to the zoning board and coming back before Akabor, I'm in favor of that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Dell.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I certainly understand Mr. Mandel's concern. And I've noticed that lately in the last number of meetings, things have been coming in late and things have generally not been as completed as they should be. This is really not a complete plan. However, perhaps in this case, a very strongly worded statement from us that the landscaping is to come to us for additional review and that we do not approve the landscaping, then in that case, I would be in favor of moving it forward. But without that very strong worded statement, I would be opposed to this. So that's, I don't know if that's of any help to you, sir.
Well, in respect to that, even if they have to come back to us, if we give them preliminary, they go through and they get all the variants and everything else, they have to come back to us with all the approvals from ZBA, AC Board, and they have to come back with a landscaping plan. Once we see that, we can either approve it or disapprove it at that point. To send a letter along saying that we want to see, everybody knows that we want to see a landscaping plan.
The applicant agreed. He agreed to bring the landscaping plan back to us before he goes to Akabor. So I don't see the problem. What the problem is, you know?
That's what I was trying to get at. We're gonna once they come back, if they get approvals from ZBA, they're gonna come back with updated site plan. They're gonna come back with landscaping plans, and at that time, we can either approve or modify the landscaping plans. And Mr. Brenner knows that, as long as, you know, and everybody else does. So in respect to sending a letter saying that we want to see the landscaping plan, we're going to see it anyway. If you know what I'm saying, Mr. Dell?
Yeah, I'm not saying a letter just as part of our decision that the landscaping plan.
You can put his statement in there. It's not a big deal.
Mr. Bond, please, you're interrupting. I can't hear Mr. Dell. I'm sorry.
Yeah, all I'm saying is you should put a very strongly worded statement within our decision, and then I think we could move it along. But if we don't, these things have a habit of developing a life of their own. I've seen it many times in the past where it comes across, well, you didn't complain before, so therefore, and then they have legal standing because they do have the preliminary. Perhaps the town attorney has a thought on that?
Okay, Mr. Brenner, do you
Yes.
understand that we definitely have concerns on the landscaping plan? We have concerns on the buffer areas. We want to see when you come back with an updated landscaping plan that you correct all these or show how you're going to correct them.
I agree with Mr. Deli, can write the strongest. In fact, I was the one that recommended to come back before we even go to Akabor. And I have no problem with a strong recommendation that we have to go to you people before we go to Akabor. I don't have a problem with it.
Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Andrews.
I agree with what Jane said before because they have so many variances to go to or go for. I think at this time, if they were to come up with a landscape plan, they may have to change it after ZBA. So if at all possible, can we make this a condition for when they come? Why don't we just make it a condition for when they come back to us later on after ZBA? That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. McCory.
Yeah, with the, voicing our concerns and Mr. Brenner acknowledging those concerns, I wonder if that would please Mr. Mandel, something strongly worded like that. If we come back, earlier than usual, the plans come
Well,
back.
he has to come back. I mean, there's no question he has to come back. And he has to come back with whatever ZBA says, whatever variance is granted or not granted. And he also has to come back with an upgraded landscape plan that we will look at.
Yeah, I agree. A strongly worded, condition that we get to look at the landscaping plans. I'm good with that.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Bond.
Oh, I'm not voting, but I'm okay with moving them to preliminary and then coming back with a full landscaping plan before they go to the Akabor. So
Okay,
that we can
thank
approve or supplement. So
Okay, thank you very much. So if I count the heads, I think there's only, if we put a strong recommendation in respect to landscaping plan, I believe that the majority are in favor of moving this along to preliminary. So with that said, can I have a motion for lead agent? Mr. Young makes a motion for lead agent. Do I have a second?
Mr. Chairman, did you hear from the public yet? I don't recall. Did you hear from the public?
Oh, no, we did. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I'm sorry. Is there anybody from the public who wishes to make questions or comments on this application?
Tom, you did hear from the public. Mandel first, Young second.
Okay, thank you,
You
Cheryl.
closed it already. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Cheryl, while you're there, did we hear anything back from New Jersey on this?
No.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, so going back to lead agent, I think I forgot where I was.
Mr. Andrews seconds, lead agent.
Okay, Mr. Andrews second. All in favor as lead agent? Aye. Any oppositions? No oppositions. Okay. Make a motion for neg deck. Mr. Young makes a motion for neg deck. Do I have a second? Mr. Andrews seconds. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Any oppositions to the neg deck? Okay, fine.
Opposed to neg deck.
Okay, Mr. Mandel is opposed for neg deck. Thank you, sir. Do I have a motion for preliminary with conditions?
I'll make that motion preliminary with conditions.
Okay, Mr. Andrews does. Okay, conditions are, Jane Slavin, June 15th. She has 11 items. Department of Environmental Planning and Engineering, Bruce Peters, May 28th. They have 29 items. Booker Engineering, June 12th. They have 10 items. Okay, Town of Orangetown Bureau of Fire Prevention, May 1st. 3. Okay, do I have a second?
Tom, you may want to look at the prior letters from January.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
We didn't put those in? I have a report from Lank and Tully, March 20th. This is a new submission for the next meeting, okay. Stormwater pollution prevention summary, plan summary.
You should start at Rockland County Health, January 14th.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I have a Jane Slavin, January 13th. And she has 13. Department of Environmental Management and Engineering, January 13th. Bruce Peters has 16. Okay, and there's a letter from Booker Engineering, January 14th. And at that point, he does not approve drainage, and there were 8 items, but now he's approved it, so I guess that's taken care of. January 8th, Town of Orangetown Bureau of Fire Prevention. There's 2. Rockland County Planning, November 18th, 2019. It's not in our jurisdiction. Rockland County Health, January 14th, has 1. Rockland County Sewer District, number 1, January 7th, has 2. I also have lead agent from Rockland County Highway, Orangetown lead agent, Orangetown Planning Board lead agent, Rockland County Highway, Rockland County Health, Orangetown ZBA, and I believe that is it. That's it. Okay. Do I have a second?
Mr. Warren, Mr. Chairman, I think the board had discussed also directing the applicant to appear before Akabor with a landscaping plan. If you want to
Thank you
make
very
that.
much. I completely forgot about that. Cheryl,
Isn't he coming back to us with the landscape plan before he goes to Akabor? That's what he
Yes.
said. Okay.
Yes, before they go to.
yes, okay. So we'll make that a motion that the applicant has to return with the landscape plan before they go to Akabor. Is that, Mr. Dell, you happy?
Yes, well.
Thank you,
yes, I'm
sir.
happy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, voting now. All in favor for preliminary? Okay, everybody. We have one, Mr. Mandel, are you still voting against it?
Still against it, and the fire range should be shown as cleared in that revised plan they bring back.
Okay, so you're voting against preliminary, because you're breaking up, I really can't hear.
I'm voting against preliminary, but the motion that you made regarding the landscape plan, they should also show on there clear fire access lane.
Okay, Cheryl, do you have that?
I have it all.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, that's it. So the vote was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 1.
Who's second?
Mr. Young,
Thank you, gentlemen.
thank you. Okay. Next item is SQ Properties, PB 20-21. Mr. Mandel, shut your mic off, please. Thank you. Mr. Dell, shut your mic off, please. Mr. Young? Okay, good. Who's doing this? SQ Properties?
Mr. Chairman, I'm here with the owner and the owner's attorney, Sean Quinn and Patrick Ben.
Okay, because I got to scroll down. Okay, very good. You want to explain?
Yes, we had been before the board on June 1st, and the majority of the correspondence was read into the record. This is the expansion of one of the smallest buildings in Rockland Corporate Park off Olympic Drive, just directly opposite Clarence and just south of Dakin. The expansion, as we had discussed June 1st, is all to the rear. It's a 35,400 square foot expansion. We had had a detailed review by DEME, and we have no objection to their comments. We also had the county planning board, county health department, but we were awaiting Brooker Engineering's review, and there was a mix-up in timing because there was a misunderstanding with the Monday night meeting. So we have an approval letter from Brooker Engineering this evening. We had also been requested to provide some additional sight lines, and we had the owner had prepared a rendering for the view from Olympic Drive, which we had provided to the board. We also had some aerial photographs that were taken if the board was interested in seeing those. We had provided those to Office of Building and Zoning, Planning, Administration, Enforcement, and we could pull those up if need be. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll go through the consultant's reports. Office of Building, Zoning, and Planning, Jane Slavin, May 29th. She has, wait a minute, something's wrong here. Because on the first page is 1 through 4, and the second page is 7 and 8. No, this must be a different letter. Okay, wait a minute. This is just 1. Okay. So the May 29th letter is just 4 items. I don't know where the heck that one came from. Okay. Department of Environmental Management and Engineering, April 3rd, Bruce Peters.
Tom, those were read in at the last meeting. The only new letters are Brooker.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl.
Okay.
I'll save my breath. Okay, Booker Engineering, June 8th. The proposed application has provided significant drainage information that demonstrates potential significant adverse impact with respect to drainage can be mitigated. We therefore recommend that the SQ Properties LLC site plan be approved for drainage at this time, and there are 9 items.
And we have no objection to those conditions.
Okay, thank you very much. And Cheryl said everything else has been read in, so that's fine. I know at the last meeting, Mr. Dell had some concern of sites from the main road. And I think the applicant has kind of demonstrated that. And it's the only time you can really see in their backyard is the brief time that you go by their driveway. And you can't really see a lot of their backyard. And I know most of this work that they're doing is behind the building. So I believe that you're really not going to be able to see it at all. Okay, so with that, I'm going to open it up to the board. Okay, Mr. Young.
No comments at this time.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Mr. Mandel.
The project, I would have voted for it last time if we had Brooker in, so thank you for supplying the information.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Mr. Sweeney. Might have lost him again. I'll go and come back to him. Mr. Dell?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant just said they could bring up on the screen the line of sight drawing. I would ask if they do that.
I know Jane sent everybody, or sent me a picture of the line of sight of the backyard. Get it?
I haven't been able to get it. It may have been immersed in one of the emails, but I get a lot of emails in my other line of work. I usually rely on what's here. But anyway,
Okay.
can the applicant do that? Is that possible?
I think, Jane, could you put that up, please?
Okay, Jay, I just made you a presenter. Are you able to do it, or you want me to do it?
It might take me a little bit to transfer the
You're gonna
photo.
have-
If you could do it, it'd be great.
Which file is it?
I just sent you one this evening, which is an aerial photograph, but the other one would be the one that was sent to you and Cheryl, which is the rendering from Olympic along with the photograph. It's actually part of the package. It's called Pick from Olympic 1 and rendering
See
from
my
Olympic.
screen right now? Can you see my screen
That's an
now?
aerial photo. Yeah, that's fine. Let me just talk about this for a second. This is an aerial photograph that I just sent Jane earlier this evening. This is the site for SQ Properties, and you can see very visually that this is the smallest by far building in this entire corporate park. This is Clarence, this is Dakin, and this is the SQ Properties. And the area of the expansion is all this area in the back. Okay, so this stand of trees, which obscures most of the view from Olympic Drive, as the chairman had mentioned, except for the brief moment that you're right about at the entrance way. All of this area in the back is going to be screened by trees to remain, which are in this vicinity here. So the sight line that Mr. Dell is concerned about is this one here, right in through here, and it's really pretty much obscured by this stand of trees and the planting plan, which will have a significant screening effect in front of the wall, the screen wall that was prevented, which we discussed at the last meeting, to visually obstruct the view from where the outdoor testing of the glass storefronts is going to take place outside, and some assembly, etc. There was
Okay,
another
this-
drawing which was an actual photograph, and there was another rendering which we had provided.
All right, now this
Jay,
is
I just,
what we needed. The reason only for the record, those who are not in attendance the last time, the reason I mentioned it is exactly what you said. There's going to be outdoor activity of storage, weathering, or whatever else it's going to be assembly that's not usually permitted in this zone. And I wanted to make doubly sure that not only would it not be a problem, but establish a precedence in case someone else comes in so they don't think it's an automatic approval. But in this case, you've certainly shown justification. Thank you very much.
So just to recap, this is the rendering that was provided. Thanks, Jane. The area of the screen wall I'm showing here, this is a flat rendering and doesn't provide any detail of the screening. So there's going to be, this whole area is going to be landscaped here, and this whole stand of trees is not properly shown on this rendering. But as you mentioned, as you saw in the aerial photograph, there you go. That other picture from Olympic right there. Thanks, Jane. That again shows this whole stand of trees at the left side of the entranceway, a very narrow corridor that you'll be seeing through to the building, and very little of the area where, if any, of the area where this outside storage is going to be.
Okay, I believe you've answered the question. And I've looked at this, but this isn't exactly what we call a line of sight drawing either. But that's okay. You've demonstrated what we needed, what I needed to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks,
Okay,
Jane.
sorry. Mr. Andrews, questions or comments?
No, I have nothing to comment now. Everything looks good to me right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr.
Jay,
McCoy?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, 1 second. Jay, is there anything else on the screen that you want me to put up at this point?
I don't think so.
Thank you.
Okay. Yep.
Oh, there's the picture right there. Mr. Dell. Mr. Dell, do you see that picture? That's the picture that they sent. This is what you see from the main road to their backyard, to their behind the building. Mr. Dell, are you there?
He's muted.
I believe I looked at this and saw this briefly, but it certainly is not what I call a line of sight drawing. But with the overhead they had of the trees and being also familiar with the site to an extent, they answered the questions. But the biggest reason I'm having this amount of questioning going on about this is an activity I think other people might start asking, and we have to have a precedence of the requirements in order to get an approval of that sort of thing. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jane. Can you take it down?
Chairman, did you call me before? Am I up?
Okay, yes, Mr. Sweeney, are you there?
Mr. Sweeney is again having issues, but he did send me, he sent me a message and said that he does not have any further comments or questions at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Andrews, questions or comments on this application?
No, I'm good with it.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. McCory?
Thank you, Chairman. I thought you called me before. Sorry to interrupt. The only thing, it was answered. I saw the drawing, the line of sight rendering, and there were no trees in the front yard. But you know, the applicant already said that you're not touching, Jay. You're not touching the trees in the front, right?
Not on the left side of the entranceway. There is going to be some tree removal for the detention basin between the building and the Olympic Drive. But as we discussed at the last meeting on June 1st, there's extensive replanting at the top of the detention basin and street trees as well.
All right. Yeah, thank you. Just the rendering looked like it was a bare cut of all the trees.
Yeah, the rendering didn't show any of the planting that's proposed.
All right, just wanted to make sure. Thank you. And just I had a question that Mr. Dell brought up. What are the uses of this building that he has concerns about? I didn't pick that up at the last meeting.
Are you you said directed to me, sir?
No, I was asking Mr. Greenwell, what are the uses of this building that you seem to have the concerns about? I didn't pick up any on that at the last meeting.
I think, I don't want to put words into Mr. Dell's mouth, but I think that he simply was referring to the fact that we need a variance for the outdoor materials because one of the things in the LIO zone is that everything has to be in completely enclosed buildings. But as we explained at the last meeting, the owner, Mr. Quinn, needs to actually physically test some of these storefronts out in the open air and subject them to rainfall and sunlight before they're being actually installed. The other thing is that some of the assembly has to be done outside because some of these are fairly large storefronts before they're put onto a truck for carrying to the site for construction.
All right, thank you. I guess I can ask Jane. Jane, was there any concerns with this use? I didn't see it in the letter.
No, well, again, the storing the materials outside requires approval from the ZBA, as Mr. Greenwell explained.
All right, thank you. That's all the comment I had.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bond?
No, I'm okay.
Thank you very much. I want to open up to the public now. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on this project? Okay, is there anybody from the public that wishes to speak on this project? Last time, anybody in the public wishes to speak on this project? Okay, hearing none, I'm asking for a motion to close public session. Mr. Andrews, second from Mr. Mandel. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None? Okay. We can, I think, move along and give them preliminary. So if that's the case, I'm asking for, go ahead, Mr. Mandel.
What are we looking for, final or preliminary? What are we looking for here at this point?
I'm sorry, you're very garbled. I couldn't understand you.
He's asking if it's preliminary or final. It's been published for pre-preliminary and preliminary and secret only.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not publicized for final.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I have a motion for lead agent?
Motion for
Mr.
lead.
Mandel. Second, Mr. Young, all in favor? Aye. A motion for a neg deck. Mr. Andrews, second by Mr. Young, all in favor? Aye. Okay, fine. Preliminary with conditions. Well, the only one that everything was read in except for Booker, right, Cheryl?
Yes, everything's been read in already.
Okay, so the only other item we have to add is Booker Engineering, June 8th letter, which has 9 items on it. Okay, can I have a second?
Mr. Chairman?
Just a second, Mr. Gale?
Yeah, sorry. Can we also have part of the decision say, the applicant has provided adequate screening for the proposed outdoor activities, or whatever you wish to say?
Okay, Jay, are you okay?
Yeah, absolutely, but I did want to say, maybe Rick, I don't think the decision to give preliminary approval incorporated all the other letters that were all read into the conditions.
Okay, then I'll go through
That's exactly what I was just going to say.
Okay,
Oh, and no one first, the preliminary.
Okay, so I'll start right at the beginning. Jane Slavin, May 29th, has 4 items. Department of Environmental Management and Engineering, April 3rd. They have 18 items. Booker Engineering, June 8th, has 9 items. Rockland County Planning, February 25th. They have 6 items. Rockland County Health, March 16th, has 1 item. Rockland County Sewer District, March 19th, has 2 items. Okay, I think that's it. Is that Cheryl? Yeah, I don't see anything else.
Yes, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, can I have a second on that?
Young.
Mr. McCoy, seconds. Okay, all in favor? Aye,
Tom.
opposed? Yes.
No one first it.
Young first.
Young first it.
Okay, thank you.
And McCory passed it. All in favor? Aye, opposed? Mr. Dell, you're opposing?
No, sir. I'm in favor.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so you got your preliminary. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
Okay. Next item is PB 20-19, Onyx Management Horizon, Amazon Delivery Center plans. Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. You want to explain?
My name is Anthony Joffrey. I am a member of the law firm Cuddy and Fader, 445 Hamilton Avenue, White Plains, New York. I'm here this evening on behalf of Amazon Services LLC. I'm joined this evening with a team that consists of Taryn Sunkia from Amazon, Jeff Desort and Scott Boer, our engineers, John Collins, our traffic engineer, my colleague Dan Patrick, and Seth Mandelbaum, who is the attorney for Onyx. At some point, we're going to ask that Mr. Desort be elevated to a panelist so that he can share his screen, but we're not ready for that, but I just wanted to advise the board.
Okay.
I'm sorry, can you give me his name again, sir?
Jeff Desort.
Jeff?
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Mr. Chairman, so we've appeared before you a few weeks ago, and since that time, we've been working to address the comments and concerns that were raised at that time, and there's been a lot of confusion. So we'd like to take a little bit of time this evening just to walk the board through where we are in the process and to address some of the comments and concerns that were raised by the board as well as by the public and how we're really addressing them. I think that there are some items that have been raised that have been confused, and we want to make sure that we sort out for the record the accuracy of the application that's before the board. As you're all aware, the ZBA granted performance standard review approval on January 22nd of this year. That approval permits Amazon's use and operation of its delivery station at the premises. The ZBA, in its consideration, looked at Amazon's proposed use and operations with regard to traffic, noise, visual impacts, emissions, and other potential impacts to the community. And in approving the application, the ZBA, in its performance standard review approval, confirmed that the proposed use and operations do not pose any potential risk of dangerous or objectionable conditions relating to Amazon's proposed use and operations. The application that's before you this evening proposes a few items: to regrade areas around the proposed loading area to provide a safer, more efficient site circulation, restriping of an existing parking area. And I want to stress an existing parking area, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And initially, the submission proposed a canopy over the loading area, which is situated over an existing paved area between the two existing warehouses on the site. As will be discussed in more detail, we've been listening to the comments made with regard to this application, and now we're proposing to amend the application to change this canopy, which will now be proposed as an enclosed loading area within four walls, within a building, to match the existing facade of the warehouse. This will be in compliance with all applicable code requirements. And we believe that matching the existing warehouse building will be something that ACCABOR looks favorably on. Since we last appeared before you on May 27th, we provided the following materials that were requested by the board: an updated emergency circulation plan developed in consultation with Fire Inspector Bettman. We added landscaping details and a line of sight data from the two properties to the west of the proposed loading area. This proposed landscaping will supplement the existing dense natural buffer between the loading area and the adjacent homes. We've also provided the requested lighting plan showing the lighting levels of 0.1 foot candles or less at the property line. This will account for a significant improvement over the existing conditions. We've also been reviewing the comments raised by some of the neighbors as expressed during the last meeting in their comments to the town and a recently circulated online petition. We understand the comments and concerns surrounding Amazon's proposed operations, but we believe that we can address a number of these comments, and we want to make the following clarification for the record. First, with regard to parking and traffic. Some of the comments confused the numbers and made it appear that the number of existing parking spaces at the site will equate to an equal number of van trips. That is not the case. The premises is currently developed with approximately 700 parking spaces. Amazon is merely proposing to restripe this area. Amazon is not proposing 700 Sprinter vans. Amazon is not proposing 700 vehicle trips per day. This parking lot and 700 spaces constitute a pre-existing condition and does not represent the parking need or the number of trips that will be generated by Amazon. This is consistent with what has been represented to and was approved by the ZBA. In a few moments, I'm going to ask Taryn, Amazon's representative that is with us tonight, to confirm the anticipated approximately 170 trips and other details of Amazon's operations. We also have John Collins from Mazer Consulting, who prepared the traffic impact study that was submitted to and approved by the ZBA. He's available this evening in case the board has any questions. With regard to the tractor trailer trips, The packages, as we're aware, will arrive by tractor trailer. Amazon expects approximately between 5 and 10 trucks a day. These trips will occur during off-peak hours and will use the Orangetown Drive access to enter and exit the site. This is also consistent with what was represented to and approved by the ZBA. With regard to comments raised regarding the Western Highway access, Amazon has also coordinated with the landlord to address concerns that neighbors raised with access to the Western Highway. We have submitted correspondence from the landlord with an associated plan that demonstrates a proposed clearance bar, as well as signage throughout the premises that will restrict Amazon's commercial van and tractor trailer access to and from Western Highway. With regard to the delivery radius, Amazon wants to clarify that the actual delivery radius for this site is approximately 15 to 20 miles. This radius is below Amazon's national average radius of 45 miles, which was what was discussed with the ZBA. The board should also note that Amazon is proposing approximately 10 additional delivery stations within a 15 or 20 mile radius of the subject site. With regard to the building located at 400 Orangetown, Amazon is not proposing to use the balance of this building at this time. This portion of the building is still rented out to another tenant, and that lease does not expire until April 30th, 2021. At that time, Amazon will need to go back to the ZBA for additional performance standards review as required by the ZBA's conditions of approval. I'd like to remind the planning board that the proposed use and operations have been approved by the ZBA, and nothing is proposing to change than what was discussed and approved by the ZBA with this application to the planning board. The proposed improvements, whether with the previous submission of a canopy or now the modified enclosed structure, will not impact or change the approved use of the site. I will now turn it over to Jeff Dezort of CISO to go through the new design, as well as some of the updated and revised materials that we've submitted as in your materials. Jeff?
Thank you. I'll begin sharing my screen here. Let me know when everybody is able to see.
Yep.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in front of the board tonight. First, the first exhibit that we'd like to show is an updated landscaping plan, and provided some aerial photography on the background to show existing screening versus proposed screening. And then also we have shown here what would be the proposed enclosed structure, where the outdoor loading canopy was previously, as discussed in our last meeting. As mentioned, delivery vans would circulate the site into the parking. This is a staging area as delineated on the site plans themselves, would then travel into the proposed enclosed structure. That enclosed structure, again, would match the architecture of the existing building. That structure has HVAC for exhaust. It has fire suppression, a comment that was brought up by the fire marshal. And these would have a high-speed door that the vans would then enter into that building. They would be staged or loaded, I should say, on the inside of the structure, and then funnel out back to Orangetown Drive, where they had always been traveling to. As shown here, the area that is specifically colored that we had provided is the only area of disturbance that we are proposing within this for this project. So the limited area is more or less outlined in the red in the shaded area. Included in that proposed disturbance would be a new infiltration basin for stormwater management. Any increase, which I believe is just over or just near 4,000 square feet worth of impervious area that's added. That impervious area, as well as all of our disturbed area, would be flowing to the proposed infiltration basin, treating that stormwater for water quality and water detention prior to discharging to an existing detention basin. As shown on the plan here, we also had shown the existing trees as best to our knowledge, and as well as the proposed trees. And we have a schedule down here showing what the proposed trees and the counts that we have added to the plan. Zooming out, here is the entire property, just an overall site plan. Part of what was discussed and considered as part of the last planning meeting was the need for the additional parking or the larger area of parking that is there existing, and that was to be restriped. Having spoken with Amazon and what we have the ability, or what this building has the capacity to perform, the amount of needed parking is really only in the like 250 range for vans. And so we have delineated here, more or less leaving this area not used. We wouldn't be touching it. Wouldn't need to restripe it. And we would be limiting any type of van parking directly adjacent to the 200 building, as well as inside the 200 building. There is always has been internal parking. Also part of our, well, I'll show the building floor plans and elevations to show the building, as well as, so existing building, and again, we would match that existing facade. The building itself out there kind of undulates, so this would also have some of that relief that's built into it. As you can see from the previous, you can see the kind of the relief and the undulating building that kind of matches the architecture that's out there existing. Existing paint colors, high-speed drive-through steel coiling door that the vans would then be able to drive into and out of. Also brought up as part of the last planning board meeting was a line of sight provided from our existing neighbor's property line to what would be the proposed canopy. So we prepared exhibits, 2 line of sight exhibits. So we took an average at the property line. We took our existing elevations, our topography, as well as existing and proposed plantings, and showed at a 6-foot height, person standing at that property line and that line of sight. As you can see, for this line of sight exhibit, you would actually be seeing the top of the berm for the existing detention basin, a tree, the second tree that we are proposing, or buffer, could be arborvitae or what have you. There is an additional, there's a proposed screening fence that is mostly for pedestrian, just to keep pedestrians outside of the loading area. And then in this plan, it shows the canopy here, but it would be the building. So we prepared that exhibit for our neighbor here, as well as our second neighbor that would have visibility to this this proposed addition. And again, line of sight, same methodology, 6-foot height. In this case, we're seeing the existing trees, proposed buffer, and then the canopy. As previously mentioned, we had worked with the fire marshal for traffic circulation around the site. Suggested by the traffic marshal was entering and exiting for the fire truck in the gate that is provided on the west side here, being able to wrap and go in front of or through the drive aisle of the vans and have access to his primary concern was in the event that the train tracks here had ever gotten blocked, to be able to get to this side of the train tracks. And so we have shown that maneuverability throughout the site, as well as if the fire truck were using that emergency access drive that's on the south. So they would have access in either location. And this proposed northern route, or we'll call it Plan North, northern route provides that quicker access to what is the east side of the building. And then also included in our submitted plans is the actual landscaping plan, details of the species that's been proposed, willow oaks, green giant arborvitae, Colorado blue spruce, and Norway spruce. At the planning board, the hearing, the ZBA hearing back in December, there was a total of 19 Norway spruces that were proposed, and those have been planted. In addition to those 19 Norway spruce, we're adding an additional 5, 31 blue spruce, 39 green giant arborvitae, and 11 willow oak. And also included planting details, general notes that were included in the plan set. And one other consideration was a lighting plan. We also have provided a site lighting plan for the entire property. Rockland County requires that there's a minimum of 0.1 foot candles along the property line. We have provided a plan that is compliant to that 0.1 foot candle limit as stated. Okay. I have nothing further to add or share.
Taryn, is there anything you'd like to add in connection with the proposed trips and operations?
Sure. Thanks, Jeffrey, and thank you to the board for letting us speak at this venue. I think I wanted to come on and clarify some of the discussion on van counts from an operational perspective. And like any other operation, we have a maximum capacity that these buildings can operate in. This particular site has been designed for van trips, the max van trips of 175 to 180. What that means is that for most of the year, this facility is going to operate at a van count of way below 160. And during the 3-week period between Black Friday and Christmas, which is our peak period, is when we expect it to reach between 170 and 180. That is what we expect from a van count number. I also want to emphasize the timing aspect of it. So when we talk about van trips in and out of the building, first thing, and I think I mentioned probably last time as well, that this is all going to take place in the off-peak hours of traffic. So van dispatch does not start until 10 a.m. in the morning, and it gets over by noon. So the number of trips combined with the timing of these trips is likely to not have any major impact on traffic from the van dispatch. And the van comes in much later in the day, which is like 7:30 p.m. Onwards in the night, again, not having any major impact on traffic during those off-peak hours. And apart from that, one more detail to add here, the site has the capability to dispatch only about 90 vans an hour. So from that perspective, if you think about it, the max we can dispatch in a 2 to 3 hour loading time is basically around 180 max. And that's what we are planning to do with this site as well. That's all that I wanted to cover. And I, again, appreciate the time from the board.
Thank you, Taryn. So, Mr. Chairman, we certainly appreciate the opportunity to present to you. We wanted to make sure that we clarified some of these items which we believe were confused previously, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you do have at this time.
Thank you very much. I think you clarified a lot of issues up that all the board members have. Let me go through the consultants' reports. I think the majority was read in last time, but let me just go through and we'll see what happens. Jane Slavin has a Office of Building, Zoning, and Planning Administration. Jane Slavin, June 15th. It's called basically the property history. And one of the things that you had said in respect to the ZBA's decision is that, and further resolved that the applicant shall return for additional performance standards reviews of operation at 400 Orient Drive prior to expanding to full use of 400 Orient building. And still further resolve that the applicant shall first utilize the TED loading docks at 400 Orient furthest away from the adjacent residential neighborhood. Okay.
Chairman, if I could just clarify again. So I mentioned
Sure.
before that there's a current tenant in that building right now. So when that tenant vacates in 2021, if Amazon takes over the additional space, then we would need to go back to the ZBA at that time for additional performance standards review. So
Right.
we have not triggered that requirement at this point.
No, I understand that. I understand what you're saying, that you're waiting for that tenant to vacate. And at that time, you were going to make up your mind whether you're going to do it or not or whatever. But that you also agree that you do realize you do have to go back to the ZBA for performance standards.
Correct.
Okay, Office of Building, Zoning, and Management, June 11th. It's from Jane Slavin. Dear Seth, and it's just a letter explaining the whole thing in respect to enclose the loading dock. But being that you have said that you're going to enclose it, then that's a moot point. Cheryl, did we read in the May 22nd letter?
Yes, you did.
Okay, so the only other thing that I have to discuss is a letter from Jane Slavin to Cheryl Coopersmith from Doug Sampath. It says, Jane, the proposed emergency access road at the eastmost side of the parking lot of Building 200 is acceptable. It has to be striped, signed appropriately, and key box must be installed at each end of the gate. The existing emergency access road appears to be part of the entry-exit to the site. I don't believe it is approved for such use, as there were traffic concerns at Western Highway entry-exit, as well as along access road. 3, the proposed canopy between the buildings must be protected with a sprinkler system. 4, I do not see any details pertaining to the fire lane at the site. 5, drawing C10.0 needs to show fire truck navigating the entire site. 6, detailed interior drawings are needed to comment on the interior renovations. Okay, and that letter was June 15th at 2:57, and prior to that, at June 15th at 1:03, it says, in addition, in reviewing the additional Amazon site plan information you sent me on Thursday, it is additional information that does not affect my original letter. So I will not update my previous drainage reviews. Report Kim. That's from drainage from Booker. Okay, so I believe that's all we had.
Tom, no,
Yes.
there's an email dated May 28th from New York State DOT, and
Okay,
there
let me-
are letters from area residents. In addition to what you have, I just emailed you one about an hour ago from Ben Warren. So look in your email.
Okay, let me just look into the back here. Betterman, okay, this was May 14th. This was from, I think, New York State. Yeah, New York State DEC. Okay, let me look here. Excuse me for just a minute. When did you send it, Cheryl? About what time?
It was in the complete package. It's towards the end. It was stated May 28th from DOT.
Okay, forgive me for a moment. Because I don't find it. Jane, do you happen to have that you can put it up? Oh, wait a minute. I have a May 21st from Parks and Rec.
No.
Cheryl, do you have the letter? You can read it. I do not have it in computer.
Oh,
wait a minute.
okay. It's from Muhammad Islam.
I don't have that, Cheryl. I'm sorry.
Okay. New York State DOT, please provide an electronic synchro file for New York State DOT review. As a mitigation measure, please have the applicant provide a modem and transfer switch for traffic signal R-107 at Route 303 and Bradley Hill Road. For your reference, we have included specifications for these. In addition, Bradley Hill Road should be restriped to provide 2 lanes approaching Route 303, and it should extend to Flower Lane intersection, left turn only lane, and a through/right turn lane. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Guthrie,
Chairman, I have the other letter that Cheryl was referencing that came in the email. Do you want me to read it?
please.
Okay, it is from Louise Mornan, June 15th at 6:58 p.m. to Cheryl Coopersmith. Good afternoon, Mrs. Coopersmith. I am very concerned as to how the Amazon project immediately behind my house is proceeding. When I moved in, there was woods and wetlands on the property and turtles and frogs and other wildlife. The McGee very harshly turned this all into a concrete eyesore. I realize I do not have the resource to wage a legal battle against this. I ask for the following: a guarantee that the emergency access road be closed to all traffic except emergency vehicles. Since Onyx has opened the gates, there is all kinds of vehicle cutting through from 303 to Western Highway. There be a 20-foot sound barrier wall be installed so we are able to survive the 750 vehicles starting up and going at unreasonable times of day. There is no activity allowed after 8 p.m. No businesses allowed on Sunday. The lighting is not shining in the bedroom windows. The water runs into the Suez water reservoir. There needs to be a way to prevent the gas and oil from getting into the public water supply. Regards, Ben Mornan, 1 Haring Place, Blauvelt, New York. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Tom, we
Yes.
have the other letters that came in that I emailed from Vanderbeek, Pat Vanderbeek, and Cheryl McNeil. They should be in your package.
I'm sorry, I don't have those. Because I'm going through what I have now. Wait a minute. Done. Go back here, wait a minute.
Mr. Chairman, they were on Friday, I think Cheryl emailed them.
Yes. And I emailed everything today in a complete
Today, I know
package to everybody.
Here, let me see, okay, wait a minute. I have letters from McLaughlin, Goldberg, and Strad, but they're for the applicant. Are those the ones you're talking about, Cheryl?
No, I also mailed them on the 6th as well. June
How do you-
6th. That was the first email to you.
Oh, God, I hate these computers. Oh, is New York State Department of Transportation, okay, is okay, I think you just read that. Muhammad son of Islam. Okay, I got that. What is this one? This one is for Patrick Vandenberg.
Yes.
Okay. As the planning board, please note, will this loading canopy area be used 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? Will it be lit up? When the leaves are off the trees, my property is lit up with lights from the building adjacent to my property. As it states, Amazon delivery station. Does this mean deliveries will be made all day, all night? This means canopy be lit up. I sincerely hope the board will consider lighting when and if it is approved. That's Patrick Vandenberg, 74 Lieber Road, Blauvelt, and that was dated June 4th. No, yes, June 4th. Let me see what else I got. This is from Ms. Cooper's flip forward to the planning board from D. Sullivan. Wait a minute, let me see who this is from. Cheryl McNeil. I see her, okay. Dear Denise Sullivan, Esquire, and Director Jane Saban, after attending the May 27th, 2020 Planning Board meeting via Zoom, we have a number of questions regarding the Amazon project at 877 Western Highway and 200-400 Orion Drive, Blauvelt. Many of us in the community are very concerned with the process by which this project has so far received approval with almost no public knowledge. After reading numerous documents concerning this project, we will try to suffice in directing to you these questions more relevant to your roles. And we will CC you any correspondence to other departments and individuals from whom I am also soliciting information. One somewhat confusing aspect of the process is disconcerting who and which board is designated responsible for various decisions and authority. It is our understanding you are responsible for classifying the Amazon project as a type 2 or unlisted case with respect to its CEQA status. You are the primary movers in advocating for the designation. And the zoning board, only 3 of the 5 members approved it on January 22nd. We'd like to request a detailed description explaining why you decided as you did. In reading through the state's regulatory on this progress at energy.gov site, product, whatever, the whole thing, it's apparent to us that this project could have been listed as a type 1 case. If that had been done, the public would now have had much more information, and there would now be a much greater effort to ensure that the sensitive areas, as is nature, woodland, wetlands, wildlife, threatened population, snapping turtles, our reservoirs, clean water supply. Residents immediately abutted the property site. Western Highway is a historical road with cultural significance. It is protected with due process. Absent that opportunity for transparency and due process, we are asking for a full accounting of your decision to classify this project as a type 2 unlisted. In particular, please address these specific questions. Number 1, how is the proposed Amazon use of Bradley Corporate Park the same or even similar to its previous use as a warehouse? 2, how is the 24/7 use of the park by over 700 Sprinter vans and over 15 semi-trailers the same as what has gone on there before? 3, in what way does the scope of this process operate not warrant a serious environmental impact review given the increased emissions and proximity to our public drinking water? It is obvious to anyone not steeping in regulations and alleys that this is enormous Amazon project does not simply affect those within a 200 feet radius. The air, water quality issues, traffic issues, the impact of wildlife, including the threatened population of the snapping turtle, the efficient New York State reptile in our reservoir, affecting every single person in Orangetown and beyond. An independent traffic study, a proper CEQA, and a series of public hearings, meetings and methods of disseminating full information to the entire town, as opposed to one meeting in January 22nd in which this project was both introduced, approved without the public knowledge beforehand that a full CEQA was not going to be demanded. Would have been the right thing to do. Thank you for your attendance. We're looking forward to your reply as soon as possible. Best regards, Cheryl McNeil and Vanessa Lappins. Okay. Let me see. That's just a repeat. Wait a minute. Here's another same letter. Hold on just a second. Dear Supervisor
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry to interrupt you. There are 3 letters. They're about equally long. I don't know that you need to read them all into the record. There is one directed particularly to the planning board. I think it contains some of the same information, a little bit more information. Maybe if you just read that one directed to the planning board and skip kind of the.
Okay, that's the last one. Okay. Yep, to Orangetown Planning Board. After attending the May 27, 2020 Planning Board meeting via Zoom, we have a number of questions regarding the Amazon project at 877 Western Highway and 200-400 Orion Drive in Blauvelt. Many of us in the community are very concerned with the process by which this project has so far received approval with almost no public knowledge. After reading numerous documents concerning this project, we will try to, basically, I'm reading the exact same thing I just read. Let me go down further to see if there's anything different. We would like to disclose that we shop frequently on Amazon. We understand that to enjoy the privilege of speedy delivery goods, there are social environmental impacts, and we must be willing to pay for them if we are to shop there. It is not the existence of the last mile Amazon distribution point in my community to which we're opposed. It is the scope of the operation in which particular location and the process in which a project has been implemented. Furthermore, we understand that the following commercial entities to operate in our community is essential to maintaining a healthy tax base. We are not opposed to a large commercial entity in Orangetown, but they must be good neighbors. It is your job as representing the experts to ensure that the case, therefore, the way in which the project was elevated to the boards is key, and so far, it does not give us confidence that Amazon indeed is a good neighbor because we are not seeing effective oversight. I think a lot of this that this young lady is concerned about has been addressed in respect to Mr. Godfrey's presentation, in which he had said that, number one, there will not be 700 vans here. I think this keeps popping up all over the place. Number two, that Amazon has been directed and has directed its employees not to use the emergency road. The owners of the property, Onyx, have understood that, and they're putting some type of traffic attenuator or barrier up so that vehicles over the height of, I'm just guessing, 8 feet cannot go out that road, that it is only designed for cars. And as respect to the number of tractor trailers, the gentleman said 5 to 10 a day. And, roughly 160 vans are going off the property per day. So, I mean, I can continue reading this, but this is really the questions of air quality, water quality, light pollution, noise pollution, property values, species protection. Again, they're not using that road, so it's not going to affect the environment. I think the Booker Engineering has addressed the drainage, and I think they've looked at any possible issues in respect to pollutants running off the property, and they're going to mitigate that. Again, I'm just where the heck was I? I lost the whole thing. The whole thing just disappeared. I hate computers, but I think that the public has to realize that we are definitely concerned. We do not take this lightly in respect to our role, and that we're doing everything we can to protect the town, the neighbors, and also the applicant. So I really don't, I don't know if I should read the whole letter in. I think the board members all have it, and of course the public have it, but it will be placed in the record in its entirety, and even the words that I mispronounced will be spelled correctly and put in right. So I think that was all, Cheryl, and I think you're just, that's all.
That's all there is.
Thank you very, very much. Okay, I want to open it up to the board. Mr. Young, any questions or concerns?
No, Mr. Chairman, I agree with you. The applicant has done an improvement on this project. I would like to stress to Onyx Management, in my review of the project and field visits there, that access road was open. I can't stress enough to have that closed off and locked up at this time as well, prior to this project. So that's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mandel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of comments and whatever. At the last meeting, I inquired about the lock gate that prevented delivery trucks and commercial vehicles from using the access road to Western Highway. The plan states you're going to use 4 cars that are hinged to prevent access by commercial vehicles, except for emergency and snow removal equipment, at 2 points in the rear area. That's only meant for commercial vehicles. It doesn't prevent cars or anything from going through there?
No, I believe cars will be able to still go through.
Is that correct?
The barriers that are being placed in are of a 9-foot clearance.
Okay. And how's that going to work with the emergency vehicles? They swing open, since there was on a swing, or hinged? Can somebody explain how that works?
Mr. Mandel, I think one of the proposals was to have that barrier so that it would swing. But now,
I'm asking type.
Yeah, well, just hold on just for a second. I also see that on their new proposal that the emergency vehicles are not going to use that road. They're going to use the other gate that is all the way down on the eastern end of the property, which will have a box on it, and they will drive through the parking lot. If you looked at the plan, I think that's what the gentleman had said. They were going to drive through parallel to the railroad tracks all the way up in front of building, was that 200 or 400? I'm not sure which building it was. This gentleman proposed before in his presentation.
We can also commit that we will restrict Amazon's personal vehicle delivery, personal vehicles from access to that site. So we can coordinate that from our site.
Okay, so we're talking about the side facing Western Highway. There'll be 2 hinged barriers there. One's at the end of the north parking lot. Am I correct? Because I look at the different plans. One shows it at the end of the north parking lot, which you're not going to be using, you stated. Okay, up at the north end there. That's one of the, yes, is that one of the locations we're speaking about? The hinge clearance bar?
This northern drive up here, this is where the Knox box would be for emergency access.
Okay, and the second one will be, I see down here.
This is the existing gate to the access road.
Okay, and that's also going to have the same clearance bars?
The clearance bars.
Okay, and they're going to be used in emergency situations when the railroad tracks can be blocked so that they can get there. Correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. I went by again, did the inspection of the property. I see you did have notices posted, those that were still standing up there. So I guess the last time I saw no signs posted, the same thing had happened. I don't know how many were left this morning, but when I went there last week, at least half of them were knocked down. So I was ashamed that somebody has come in like that. I went back with it is for a new landscaping plan. I went back, I see that you put in about 105 trees. I rode along the back way again, looking where you were placing them. And I pretty much know where. I think it's an excellent job so far what I've seen. Hopefully those trees will come in there, and it should make a big difference with the people who live there. Now you had mentioned that you're putting in some sort of exhaust system in the new garage area where the Sprinter vans are going to be loaded. Could you just repeat that? I think I missed part of it.
Yeah, so it's the HVAC system that gets installed there is for it's being able to take the any type of emissions or exhaust out of the air to a safe level, so that while they're inside the building.
Okay, so you're clearing the exhausting of the air will be cleaner than normally would be based upon that system, correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. I didn't.
Okay, that system is going to that's the exhaust system from the trucks. That system would exhaust air from that building, correct? Would be cleaner than if it wasn't there.
The HVAC system that would be installed in the building enclosure would be to take away the exhaust fumes of the delivery vehicles in the enclosed building.
And exhaust it to the outside, correct?
Correct. Yes.
And no filtration.
I'm not aware of one. I'm not sure if what filtration. If it has any or not. So I can't speak to that.
Oh, okay, thank you. Appreciate that. And okay. We talked to the fire department, that's all changed. Okay, that's all I have at this time. Thank you. And I'll wait for public comment about any additional questions. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mandel. Mr. Sweeney?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me this time?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you. So thank you to the applicants for, addressing a lot of the questions we brought up last time. Unless I missed it, I had one question that I heard last time that I didn't hear an answer this time. I'm looking at Michael Bettman's memo from May 22nd. One thing he said was that the canopy, which now I guess is an enclosed space, would require a fire suppression system. I didn't hear anything about that in discussion to this point. Did I miss something, or do you have an answer for that?
So we're proposing a fully enclosed structure right now that will be sprinklered.
Okay. And does he approve that plan to have sprinklers in that area as opposed to foam or other types of fire suppression?
I believe he requested it in another letter, right?
Mr. Sweeney, if I can interject, that would be during the building code review, once they submit their full set of construction plans, which comes after.
Okay,
They would have to meet New York State Building and Fire Code. That's what he's referencing.
Okay, great. So I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything, because that was something that I know I highlighted from last time. All right, I will refrain from now and wait for the public comment.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Dell?
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, first of all, I have to say this is a much better presentation than what we were given last time. Last time we had scant information. Now we have quite a bit more to base any decisions upon. First of all, I requested the line of sight drawings. Thank you very much for them. There are two things about them that I think should be noted. First of all, you're showing the line of sight going through basically the trees, but as you know, as a tree gets taller, it also has a much less spread till it comes down to a little point. And when you take the amount of area that this is spread out over, the main thing that's contributing right now to any screening is really that preliminary berm that was put in there. So again, eventually this might get better, but it still is a little bit of a problem. Now, related to that, you show a fence with proposed fence with screening. What I want to know is, will that fence also be a sound barrier? And if not, I think it should be. Does anybody from Amazon have any comment about that?
I'm not aware if it's a sound barrier. I don't know if anybody on our team is aware, but we can inquire if we don't have that answer for you this evening.
Well, I think it should be a sound barrier, not being, something that you'll find out about. I think that would help out a lot for this area. Next thing has to do with now you're taking this canopy and you're enclosing it. I think that's a very good thing. Mr. Mendel touched upon an area that I'm very concerned with and has to do with the venting. I'm sure you're able to keep this safe for the people who are inside and meet all the federal specifications for air cleanliness. However, what happens when it gets out? As Mr. Reagan, our former president, said, the solution to pollution is dilution. So to take all of that and just spread it out higher up into the air, I don't think is much of a solution. There should be a scrubber or some sort of system to remove the majority of the pollutants. I think this is something that the neighborhood deserves. And this is a campus type situation. And as such, if you're in the middle of this, it might be a little bit different, some of the criteria. But since you're right next to residential properties, I don't think it's fair that for the sake of saving the health of your drivers, that they potentially have some health issues imposed upon them. Now, you have your parking lots, and you have a lot of catch basins. I think there should be oil separators placed in the catch basins, or at least before it enters your main detention basin. Because right now, if you have a normal situation, people come there, they go to work, they're there for the day, and then they leave. So it's maybe one trip in, one trip out. But in this type of operation, you'll be having a constant moving of vehicles, and a lot of them are going to eventually have a fair amount of mileage. Eventually, you might use natural gas, but until such time, I think oil separators would be a very good thing to do and would radically improve the quality of the water. Have you given that any consideration? Anybody?
So I'll defer to the engineers on the call, but I just wanted to clarify one item. The vehicles won't be idling while they're inside the building. They'll be pulling in, they'll be turning off, and then they'll be turning on when they leave. I don't know if there's anything additional.
Yeah, so for the oil and water separator, our drainage at this point has gone through both your guys's, your consultant, townships, the town's consultant, as well as, and found that no oil and water separator would be needed. In this case, even though we have the existing, I would mention that the existing facility has something like 1,500 vehicles that are stored on it at any given time. Based on counting from just Google Earth earlier today, it was over 1,500. So with the reduced traffic that's actually going to be on site, I think that we would be less likely to have that. And then the initial in filtration basin, The point of the water quality that has to be met for the state and the town's code for stormwater, that water quality has to treat that first flush, which would be the initial pollutants that would build up on a pavement. So that is treated within that infiltration basin.
Well, we both know the way that it's treated. It relies on nature, but you still have a lot of that entering the groundwater. I think it would be far preferable to have some sort of oil separators somewhere along the line. I don't think that'd be a big problem. Again, you mentioned the amount of cars coming in and out. If a car is there all day long and it's 1,500 cars, as opposed to vans that are constantly going out, there's not much parity between the numerics going on. Now, are the vans going to be idling when they're outside because then they're in an unheated area, or are they just going to sit in the parking area? We're going to have vans, I assume. Are they going to be sitting, or are they going to be idling?
Taryn or Jeff, they're not proposed to be idled outside, are they?
No. They're all parked and they're switched off. We have to realize that it's also a safety concern for us. We don't want our vans to be on when they're not being actually driven. Just because all the wherever it is, either loading or parked, that just presents a safety concern for the associates. So no, we don't do that. The vans are switched off.
Okay, so then the drivers will not really have to wait to get inside the building. There won't be a line waiting their turn to come in, which would generate additional idling time, etc. They'll be just coming right in and going quickly.
You're correct. So there is a staging area and there is a loading area. They all line up in the staging area and they wait for their turn. But even at that point, they are switching their vans off and waiting for their turn if they arrive early. And then they move into the loading area, which is inside the building, and they switch off their vans while they're loading the packages on the vans.
Okay, again, this is a much better presentation. I want to thank you for that. One of the areas I had of great concern was the line of sight. I think you've answered that most of it, but I'm still very concerned. I think you should have some sort of scrubber system on the roof. Since you're saying not that much pollution is coming out, then it shouldn't be a very big expense to fix that, because you are, again, next to a residential neighborhood. You're having quite a bit of traffic. It could be almost the equivalent of, let's say, a major highway next to your house. And particularly since it's up into the air, depending on the weather conditions, etc., it could be quite a problem for the neighbors. And the oil separators, I think, would increase the obviously the quality of the water, and I think that a sound barrier, that should definitely be part of it. In addition to that, I would like
Mr. Doe, we can certainly look into that before we come back before you the next time. So we'll certainly look into that and see what we can respond back with. But I just wanted to clarify one item. I believe somebody mentioned that there were 1,500 trips in and out. I want to clarify that that's not the case. You heard Taryn represent before again that the majority of the year the trips are going to be 160 trips, and max would be 175, 180. And then I just wanted to ask Jeff, as it relates to your comments with respect to line of sight and your other comments. Jeff, can you just put up the aerial? I just want to make sure that we all see the aerial. And I want to point out the existing mature vegetation that exists in the area, and then again the significant landscaping that's being added by this application.
So here's the existing detention basin. And if you can recall, most of our additional screening is occurring along this detention basin, and then along this property line. So the line of sight that would be to the building is these houses back here, which is where we did the study. And many of them have quite a bit of existing vegetation in their backyards currently, as well as arborvitae or some type of spruce tree that's along the embankment of the detention pond, and then it'll be the included landscaping that we are proposing. So not that we have a picture from their backyard.
I'd like to
Yes.
clarify that this is the existing conditions. This is what's existing on site now.
Right, but most of those trees are saved. Actually, I was involved in that subdivision when it went in. They're actually already saved by the homeowners. And I don't think there should be any misconception about that, because what you're adding some screening, it's definitely an improvement, but I think we still have general issues, the sound in particular, and the fencing that you're putting in, I assume, will also stop a lot of headlights. So that'll also be a good thing. But again, do check on this. If you're saying you're coming back again, then I assume you want this to remain a preliminary and you're going to ask for a continuation, or are you trying to get preliminary tonight? I don't really understand.
Oh, we would love to get final tonight, but I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I'm not even talking that. I'm talking about preliminary or keeping it.
No, I understand. I'm just making a joke.
No, I understand.
I think we should hear from the rest of the board members. If we'd like to move this along as best as we can, obviously.
If I can comment, I believe that there is a policy in the building department relating to late submissions. And since this just came in today, I believe that there probably will not be a possibility of going for a preliminary tonight. Jane, is that true?
Your mic's not on, Jane.
Rick, agreed. We typically will not accept any submissions closer than a week before, so that we have time for the public to be able to review anything that comes in. It was a very good presentation. Thank you for clarifying a lot of information. However, this information needs to be provided to the public in a timely manner so that they can review and comment.
Yes, and it also needs obviously to be provided to the board members, so they're not here, let's say at the last minute or 3 hours before a meeting to make a very important decision based with no time for reflection and inspection. But yes, if that's what's going to happen, I think that's fine. And I prefer any other comments until after the public speaks. Thank you very much.
Understood.
Thank you, Mr.
So,
Dell.
Mr. Chairman.
We thought it was very.
Oh, I'm sorry, Anthony. One second. Mr. Chairman, if I can. Amazon attorneys came back with, they wanted to submit this and they wanted to make sure that they had a forum for which to clarify their comments. So that's why we allowed it, because it is a complicated project. We wanted to make sure that they were given the opportunity to clarify their issues. And with that, Anthony, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Jane. I was going to basically indicate the same thing, that we obviously wanted to use this opportunity to clarify some of the inaccuracies in the record, make sure that you were aware of exactly what's being proposed, and then obviously knowing where we were moving, give you the opportunity of a snapshot of the proposed building structure. But we understand that those materials are only submitted today. But we didn't want to not have that discussion with you and talk about a canopy this evening.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Andrews, questions or comments?
Just a couple of comments. One question. I want to thank you for clarifying the amount of vehicles that are going to be going in and out of the facilities. I have one question about the access bars that you're putting in, the 2 access bars, I believe.
If I may interject, they're not putting it in. The owners of the property are.
Okay. Then the owners
so they may not know exactly what's going in.
I think I saw a plan as for one that showed that the access bar was at 9 feet. Are there going to be fire apparatus going through these bars?
Okay, there's 2 scenarios. One, those bars will be able to swing as the letter stated. But right now, the fire apparatus will not be going through them. They will be going through a gate all the way in the northern, when I said eastern, Mr. Mandel, I was sorry. All the way at the northern end of the property, there's another gate and they will be going through the parking lot parallel to the railroad tracks. I think one of the gentlemen brought that up. If Jeff, could you bring up that site plan again? I wanted to make mention of that before, just to clarify as to where you are proposing to have the fire apparatus or emergency vehicles go through, and that gate will have a locked box on it.
Yes, and to clarify again, Mr. Mandelbaum, who's here this evening, who is the attorney for Onyx, in our last submission, he submitted a June 9th letter, which we included in our submission with the plan. And for the record, I'll indicate here that, as shown on the drawing, the low clearance bars would be hinged to allow for emergency access and snow removal maintenance vehicles only.
Right, but then in your presentation tonight, you were saying that you are not relying on that, where you are installing a lockbox at the northern, if I see it's the north east part of your property that would have a lockbox on it, right there. That's where the fire apparatus will be coming through. And that'll be a lockbox.
Okay.
Okay, and then they will just drive through the parking lot parallel to the railroad tracks. Because if you see at the upper part of that picture, that stripe there, that's the railroad tracks. So it'll be running parallel to the railroad tracks. So they were not, they were emergency road at all.
All right. As long as they're not going to try and go through those bars, I didn't realize that they were swinging or anything like that. So that clarifies my question. I appreciate it, and thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. McCory, questions or comments?
Yeah, just a couple questions and comments. It's a better plan than we had last time. It answered a lot of questions. Hopefully it answered a bunch of questions that the public had. Because, when we look at the plans, we always make sure, the needs of the public and the surrounding areas are fully considered. The trip outs you mentioned were from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. What happens after noon? Is there a lull in the action? Is it no one's coming in for a while until everybody gets back from the deliveries?
Yeah, I can take that. So what happens is, once the delivery drivers go away, there are pretty much 20-25 associates in the building, and basically what they're doing is, we have a one-day delivery component to it, and they basically sort the packages and prepare the packages for our flex drivers. And this is, about 20 to 30 personal vehicles, drivers that basically, pick up packages from the site and deliver to the nearby community in like a shift of 3 to 4 hours. And the associates in the building at that point are basically preparing packages for those drivers to come in and pick up the packages and deliver them. The thing to keep in mind here is that these personal vehicles or flex drivers, they have their own personal vehicles, so they do not have to return back to the site. So they come in the site once, pick up 5 or 10 or 15 packages, and then just leave and not return back.
And what's the time frame that takes place? Is that all day?
No, that's between around 4:30 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. But the amount of trips is almost negligible. It's 20 to 30 vehicles.
Is that included in the 160 number that we heard, or is that extra?
No, 160 is the van traffic.
So another 30 plus is personal car traffic?
Yeah, another 20 to 30 personal flex drivers, and then Jeff, I don't know if you have the traffic study itself open. But yeah, that's what they do during that time.
All right, I just wanted, I know you guys coming back, just wanted to clear things up for next time. I see you added more screening, which is good. And I hope you guys take into account what the other board members said about sound barrier, oil separators, and the HVAC filter. And that'll address other concerns the neighbors have about the noise pollution, the water pollution, and that goes a long way to keeping the neighbors happy and the board happy. So I appreciate the changes and look forward to more changes. So thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Bond?
Yes, I just had one question on the that emergency access gate. Last time when you were in where the gate is, that was going to be locked, so no traffic could get through there other than emergency vehicles who would have access to the lockbox that was going to house the key. Now you're proposing these bars, so the other traffic can go in and out of there all day long. Why the change on that?
From what I understand, Amazon has no control of that road. It's the owner of the property has control on that road.
Well, he's here. Guy representing him is here tonight, so maybe that question is for him. Why we don't want traffic going out that way? I mean, or coming in that way for that matter, you know? So I don't understand why that gate is even open, you know? But when I was over there, it was wide open. You know, there were a couple of tractor trailer trucks that did come in there. Obviously, they weren't Amazons because they're not operating there yet. But you know, it's I can understand why the neighbors are not happy with that. So
this is Seth Mandelbaum. I represent Onyx. Tony or Jeff, maybe we could just put up the two different plans because I believe there may be some confusion about two different areas. One where the clearance bars are proposed, which I understand is different than where the lockbox is proposed, if I understand that correctly. Jeff, I don't know if you can show that. There were two separate plans that showed the two different areas, I believe.
Sorry. I don't have your plan pulled up on my computer right now, so I'd have to dig through and try to find something.
I can try and share that on my screen.
Okay.
where the emergency act now goes into their parking lot. I'm talking about on the road itself. There's a gate there now. There's two gates there. They're just wide open. They're not locked. Cars can go running out of there all day long. There's nothing to restrict them from going in there, cutting through the Amazon property, going over the railroad tracks. You know, it's they're riding all directly behind. It's all residential to the right there. You know.
Okay, wait, I'm just looking at something right now. Hold on just for a second.
Mr. Chairman, I just shared one of the approved maps. The yellow, highlighted yellow, shows what was the access road.
Right.
Everybody see that?
So down closer to that building, it's to the right of my screen. Along that road, there's a gate there.
Right. So
Before you get to their
what I'm
parking lot, it's
right.
almost
So
right
what I
where their
will explain here is there are a number of decisions that I read through, which obviously everyone knows this is a very long history with this project. But in 1995, a planning board decision stated that consistent with past decisions, trucks should not exit on Western Highway, the 2-lane county road. All truck traffic entering and exiting the site should use the 4-lane state highway Route 303 via Bradley Hill Road. There should be no access to Lieber Road except for emergency vehicles from this project. So the yellow represents what has been the emergency road. So my understanding is from the representatives from Amazon and Onyx working with the fire inspector, they came up with that alternate road as well. But I believe the idea was always to keep this road closed to cut through traffic.
right, but we're not doing that. You're still allowing cars to go through. Without the gate, there's going to be cut through traffic there whenever they want. You know, that's what I don't get. You know, why that was what was proposed last time they were in. They were talking about that. And now it's changed, you know.
Andy Andrews here. I concur with Bruce because the last time I visited there, I had parked my vehicle alongside of the road to take some pictures and look at some of the postings, and I almost got run over by a truck. And it wasn't a little truck; it was a big truck. And that gate was open. I went right onto Western Highway. That gate was wide open. And I concur with Mr. Bond that there's also cars going through there too.
Right, yeah.
So
Right,
I don't
so
understand why.
if the new buyer was not made aware of that, you can understand how that happened. So I think now they're becoming aware of the fact that that was always meant to be only an emergency access road, and that would need to be addressed.
But we
Yeah, I
need to
think
address
we
it as
just-
part of. Right. So,
I think we need to look into this on behalf of ownership. I know certainly commercial traffic, my client, I think, would be amenable to looking into that. But I think since we know we're coming back with Amazon to address any other open issues from Onyx's perspective, rather than try to answer this question at this exact moment, we prefer to do our research, look at what Ms. Slavin is referring to, and make sure we give a complete, accurate answer for the next meeting. And I'll defer back to Tony Giaffri on the rest of the issues.
Okay, if I may say something, and this kind of puts Amazon in the middle because this has got nothing to do with you guys. I think between the building department and the town attorney, because as of PB 95-124, item number 18, it says there should be no access to Lieber Road except for emergency vehicles from this project. So I think between the building department and the town attorneys, they have to get together with the owners of the property and resolve this. And again, this has nothing to do with Amazon. And I think Amazon is like caught in the middle of this.
they said last time they would supply the lockbox for the gate. That's what they told us.
If I can,
I'm not
if I can, Mr. Chairman, as a planning board, you do have the authority to ask for certain, things to be done during site plan review.
Okay.
This has been a long-standing requirement with this development.
Okay, but the only thing that in respect to that I can say is we're dealing with Amazon. Amazon is not the owner of the gate nor the road. So we can't put the burden on Amazon. We have to put the burden on the owner of the property.
Except Amazon is proposing to change the emergency access route. By
Correct,
doing
but
that,
Right.
it's coming into to the plan review process. Who pays for it and who enforces it and who makes sure it gets done? That doesn't matter, really. It's part of the site plan approval process. They are changing what was the previously approved fire access road. So they have to address all of the concerns. So that's why it's before you, and that's why it's being discussed.
Okay, well, the only thing.
That road runs right. That road right now runs right through their two buildings.
No,
So
I
it's the
understand
same
that.
as where the gate is.
But it extends beyond
So-
our lease area, and there's certain things that we can do and we can't do. But I think you heard from Mr. Mandelbaum in terms of he needs to consult with his client, and we'll look into this before we get back before you.
Okay, would you
Yes.
please do? But the only thing I'm saying is that back in 95, the decision was made by the planning board to the McGee brothers, and they agreed to it because evidently they signed it, that they in effect would have that gate would be locked. It'll be used only for emergency vehicles. So I think between the building department and the town attorneys, they're gonna have to research this a little bit more. And if from what I see from this decision, to turn around and tell the owners of the property, hey, folks, you gotta put a lockbox on it. Amazon is trying to not get around it to alleviate this situation by coming through another gate, which is fine, which I think is great because they want to see this project go forward and not get caught into an issue with this road. But I think now it's up to the building department and the town attorney to get this straightened out, not us.
But Tom, that access now is only going to be for Amazon.
No, it's not.
Who else would it be for? They can't cut through the road that's there now that runs through the middle of the building is going away, right?
Amazon is going out onto 303. Always was never that road.
I understand that, but who else can go out that way now?
I think half the people
Without cutting through their parking lot.
Well, they cut through the parking lot. So
So only their employees can go out that way. So there's no reason not to have a lock gate there. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, as I said, we will look into this issue and get back to you for the next meeting. I've talked to my client about it. And again, rather than surmising or guessing, I'd rather have all the information, consult with staff and the town attorney as suggested, and have a complete answer for you. So we all have the same set of facts in front of us. But we hear
Okay,
the issue and we will look into it.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
I think all the board members have talked now. I'm going to open this up to the public. I want to see what the public has to say. I think Amazon wants to see what the public has to say. I think that a lot of questions have been satisfied by Amazon's presentation. So who's the first? I'm opening it up to public. Anybody want to speak on this project? Turn your microphone on, state your name and your address, please.
Can you hear me? Cheryl McNeil.
Yes, ma'am.
I live at
Let me just preface one thing. I see a lot of names up here. I don't know who's part of the project, who are public concerned with us. We're going to limit you to 3 minutes, please, because if there's a lot of people, we want everybody to be able to speak. So go ahead.
No problem. I live at 56 Old Western Highway in Blauvelt. I was one of the authors, along with Ms. Vanessa Lappins, of the letter that I hope all of you will read that we sent to you. So first of all, I would really like to thank Amazon for coming back and, addressing some of these concerns. So a number of them have, I think, been addressed fairly well. I just have some follow-up questions. I also want to thank Mr. Dell and Mr. McCrory for really focusing on the oil separation and the holding ponds. Having the 1,500 cars that are already there being warehoused is very different, as you gentlemen noted, than having 180 vans, 160 to 180 vans and 5 to 10 semi-trailers every single day. So there is going to be quite a buildup of oil and other pollutants. And I'm really concerned about the reservoir being right there. That is our drinking water. So we really need to make sure that the holding ponds are secure and that that there is filtration of what's going into them. Secondly, the noise barrier. I'm really appreciative of that suggestion. I really hope that that's something that is followed through on. And the filtration. I'm glad to hear that there will not be idling. What I'd like to see built into this is some sort of monitoring of that. How is this going to be monitored and enforced? And I think there really does need to be filtration, some scrubbers on the top of that building that is no longer the canopy, but is now going to be enclosed. We already have, many pollutants in this town, including the aloof plant, and we really can't afford to have another building that does not have proper scrubbers installed from the get-go. I appreciate Ms. Slavin, Mr. Bond, and Mr. Andrews bringing up about Western Highway. That's really a bottom line, I think, with me and with a lot of the community members who are not only people who live in the area and who use Western Highway and are horrified already at the traffic patterns there and nearly getting mowed down on a daily basis, especially when we're trying to help with the turtle conservation efforts. So whoever ends up taking the responsibility for putting a lock on that gate, please make sure that that gets gated and properly locked, except in emergencies. Some real quick questions. The 20 to 30 employee vehicles, I could have sworn in the last meeting that we were told that there were 181 spots or something like that for employee vehicles. So is it really the case that only 20 to 30 employee vehicles are going to be coming in and out of there? The hours for the semi-trailers at night, I'm still not getting clarity on that. I'm sorry. Okay, and the number of semis, the 15 to 20 mile radius, it still says in writing 45-mile radius. So I really want to hear a lot more talk on the radius And then what happened to our suggestion about electric vehicles? That's just my last point. Amazon
Okay,
has
Cheryl,
so many
you're
electric
over your
vehicles.
3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak?
I would. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please state your name and address, please.
Sure. I'm Carolyn Hill at 849 Western Highway. On a good day, I could probably heave a rock and hit 877 Western Highway. I do want to thank you all for hearing our comments and supplying information for us. It's very helpful. I would like to ask one question and then get some clarification on one other. I would love to know who at Suez you are talking with or consulting with regarding any type of impact on our water system or natural wetlands. And then the other is regarding oversight, as Cheryl McNeil just mentioned. If there is vans that, or if there are vans that are idling at night, or if there are vans or semi-trucks riding down Western Highway, I would like to know first of all, who I would report that to, what they would do about that, who is accountable, and how are they held accountable? Because thank you for bringing up this issue of Western Highway traffic, Mr. Bond and Mr. Andrews, because if you think that it's difficult being parked in a car on the side of Western Highway and a truck almost blows you off of it, I would invite you to take a walk with me down Western Highway, which I do on a regular basis. And this is 365 days a year. It's my front yard. And I want to walk my dogs. I want to drive my car and turn into my driveway without getting honked at from behind. I have been almost blown off the road by trucks that I'm quite sure are not supposed to be there. I have spoken to our county highway superintendent, who has assured me that he has made it clear that there are to be no additional vans, Sprinter vans or trucks on Western Highway. So my question is, if I'm taking my walk and I see Sprinter vans for Amazon, who I love, by the way, I love Amazon. If there are vans, what do I do? Who do I call, and who has authority to hold someone accountable for that? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone else wish to speak on this?
This is Vanessa Lappins at 659 Western Highway. First of all, I'd like to state that Amazon's use of the word confused is corporate speak for you're all idiots. And I'd like to request that they not try to marginalize the community. Anthony, please don't do that again. That's number one. Number two, thank you to Mr. Bond, Mr. Andrews, Ms. Slavin about the gate, because now changing it into a 9-foot bar certainly allows the height of a Sprinter van to pass underneath unobstructed. So where before that was going to be locked and now it's not, and now it's going to have a bar, very confusing, and will allow traffic onto Western Highway, which is probably the main objection from most of the residents in the area. Number three, thank you, Mr. Dell, about the emissions. I think that's very critical that we prevent that coming into our air supply. Thank you, Mr. Dell, about the water treatment, because I think the water separation is key. We have a huge issue with water quality. We're dumping copper sulfates. I'd also like to see some kind of statement about pesticides and fertilizer, because we know they're having those algal blooms that are contributing to the water quality in the area. And then finally, it's enforcement. And back to that statement about us being, air quotes, confused. It's 700, it's 160, it's 45, it's 10, it's 15. It seems to be fungible and not monitored, and trying to understand how that's all going to be enforced. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Anybody else wish to speak on this project? Anyone else in the public wish to speak on this project? Okay, can I have a motion to close the public? Mr. Andrews makes the motion to close it. Mr. Young seconds it. All in favor? Okay, opposed? Anyone opposed? Okay, no opposition. Mr. Godfrey, I think at this point, you may want to ask for a continuation to kind of get what these questions that the board and the public are concerned about and get these resolved. Wait, excuse me, just a second. Mr. McCory.
Mr. Chairman, would Amazon want to address any of the public comments that they have concerns about?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Do we want to address any of the public comments that were just entered into the record?
I think that's up to the Amazon to address it, because I think there's some of the if they want to address the the public questions, please go ahead. Because I know there was a couple of things stated that may have may not be right, and if you want, go ahead and address them now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll go through a few of the comments, and we're certainly going to be requesting a continuance this evening. If you just bear with me, there's a few things I just want to highlight. Earlier on, there was talk with respect to DOT comments. That was also submitted as part of our ZBA performance standards, and that is being worked on, and those conditions are being addressed. There were comments also that were read into the record as it relates to threatened species and cultural significance. I'd like to refer to my June 10th correspondence to the board, which identified that the DEC's email comments of May 14th identified that there are no records of any threatened or endangered species at the premises. Similarly, that same letter that I submitted to the board referenced the cultural resources, and there was a May 14th, I think DEC's comment on May 14th indicated, and the May 12th New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation May 12th letter concluded that no properties, including archaeological or historic resources listed in or eligible for the New York State or National Registers of Historic Places will be impacted by the project. So I just wanted to make sure that that was part of the record as well. Taryn, I believe you indicated that you wanted to respond to a couple of the comments that were raised by Ms. McNeil.
Yeah, Tony, I do, and actually I do want to thank Cheryl, Vanessa, and I believe there was one more person. I want to thank you guys for those comments. It definitely helps us improve this project. I do want to address some of the things that you mentioned, Cheryl. So number of employees, total number of employees, and I want to distinguish the employees who work inside the building versus the flex drivers that I was talking about earlier. So the number of employees who will work inside the building will be anywhere between 70 and 80. The number of flex drivers, these are folks who have their personal vehicles and they come into the facility, pick up some packages and deliver them. That number is going to be anywhere between 20 and 30. So that I just wanted to clarify that aspect of it. And 70 to 80 is total number of associates throughout the day who will be at the facility at any given point in time. The second thing I want to clarify is the number of semis. I think there's some confusion regarding that. I think what we've always maintained is it's between 10 and 15 line hauls that will be serving this particular facility. And that just depends on the daily volume of packages that need to come in. But as I said earlier, this facility has a specific capacity, and there's no way we can exceed that capacity from an operational perspective. So that number comes from there. Let me just quickly talk about the delivery radius. I think the 45-mile radius, and again, I wasn't present at the ZBA myself, so I don't know where that came from, but the 45-mile radius is really 45-minute radius. That's the average radius that Amazon Logistics tries to deliver to around a delivery station. And given what Anthony alluded to earlier, this facility is slated to have about 10 other facilities around it within that 10 to or 15 to 20 mile radius. So the likelihood is that the radius of drivers going from this facility is going to be even less than 45 minutes. So these are very local deliveries that we are talking about. We're not talking about delivering to Manhattan from this facility. Fourth comment was regarding electric vehicles. So let me clarify a little bit on that. So Amazon definitely has committed a lot of resources, and we have put in, orders for thousands of electric vans for our distributor from our suppliers. The problem is that they are not able to keep up with the demand. There are 300,000 vans that have been ordered already. It's just a matter of time. I cannot commit to when electric vans be available on this particular facility, but from an Amazon and Amazon logistics perspective, I can assure you that we are putting in all the investment that we can into electric vehicles, because that at the end of the day, that's good for the environment, that's good for the business, that's good for the communities that we want to operate within. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara. So, Mr. Chairman, unless the board has anything else, we would certainly be requesting a continuance of this matter.
Okay, does the board have anything else they wish to ask the?
Tom, I just wanted to clarify one thing, that I believe Mr. Andrews and we were proposing that no cars or vehicles go out that road if the gate is locked. That doesn't mean that Amazon's not gonna have Sprinter vans or some other tractor trailer truck is not gonna be driving down Western Highway. They could, they come from West Nyack. There's other businesses that are at the tail end of this park that are on Western Highway. You have O'Sullivan Tree Services, a couple other businesses on the other side of that gate that come in and out of there all the time. So
I was going to say that because
you're not going to be able to call anytime you see an Amazon truck on Western Highway. Doesn't mean they came out of that.
Yeah, because you could get
you don't even complain if they're left or right. Yeah,
goes out Bradley, it goes down to Erie Street, over to Western Highway, and then down Western Highway. And he didn't come out of, that back road. So that's why I'm saying, if people see an Amazon truck on the road, they do not necessitate coming out of that road. So I want people to be aware of that. The Amazon trucks are all over the place. But we're not going to let them
put a gate there.
They may be exiting the premises the right way and making a delivery on Western Highway.
Yes, correctly. They might go down to Erie Street, make that turn and go on to Western Highway and then, go around and make a delivery. So, if somebody sees an Amazon truck on Western Highway, there's not a problem. They didn't come out of that side road. So, okay, sir. You're asking for a continuation. Very good. Cheryl, as for the next date, it will be advertised, and I don't know what else to say. But
Tom,
very good presentation.
Tom.
Yes, go ahead. Yes.
The next meeting is next week, June 24th. If they would like to get on that meeting, keep the signs up, change it by hand to June 24th. If they're going to be submitting more information, then they have to go on a next meeting, more plans. And that would be July 9th. And I would need everything by June 25th.
Okay, well, that's going to be up to Amazon as to what date they want.
Right, but we need to make that official this evening, Mr. Chairman.
Correct. Yes.
So can I ask the attorney for Amazon, will you be submitting anything additional?
We will be submitting additional materials in order, obviously, to address the comments and questions that were raised by the board. Obviously, if we submit anything in response to the oil separator questions or the sound barrier, we will be making a supplemental submission.
So then you're probably looking at the July 8th then. I'm guessing. I'm not saying anything to, because we're having another meeting next Wednesday, if I'm correct. So I don't think you'll have enough time to get the information in and us to be able to get it out to the public. So you may want to consider the following meeting. It's your choice.
Yes. I'm just trying to coordinate. My client just lost his connection. So I'm just trying to get direction from him. If you could just bear with me one moment. My apologies. But it seems to me that July 8th makes more sense.
Okay.
Is it July? Wait, just a second. Is it July 8th? Is that the Wednesday? That's the Wednesday? Okay. since it's being announced at this meeting that that's the day, I do not need abutting neighbor notices. There will not be notices, but the signs must be hung up. If you can change the signs by hand, that would be fine. If not, let me know and I'll make you new signs.
Okay, so to confirm, I just confirmed that July 8th is what we would like a continuance to July 8th. And then we do not need to do the notices, just updating the signs.
Yes, correct. If you need new signs, let me know and I'll make them.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl, appreciate it.
Okay, no problem.
Right, but any new submissions have to be in prior to July 1st.
Okay, so July 1st is our submission deadline?
Yes,
The latest.
the latest.
If we can submit it earlier, we certainly will.
Okay, just let me know when you plan on submitting.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay.
And we appreciate, all staff has been extremely helpful in coordination. We certainly appreciate that. We appreciate the comments from the public and certainly from the board. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Cheryl, do we have any other business?
Yes, there's other business. I need approvals of the May 27th, June 1st, and June 10th decisions.
Okay, if there's anybody here that doesn't belong, please go away so we can finish the rest of our business. Thank you very much. Okay, I think one of the meetings I had computer issues, and I think Mr. Young, was that one of the ones that we talked about?
Yes, I've already corrected that.
Okay, and I think the only other thing that I saw in respect to what you sent was the meetings were starting at 7 o'clock, not 7:30.
I've corrected that as well.
Okay, I don't know if anybody else has anything else.
It looks as though like July is going to be back to our regular meetings. Are we going to still have it at 7 or are we going to change it back to 7:30?
We are trying to catch up and I, as Cheryl and I think I can speak for Cheryl too. We'd like to thank you for this. I know this is a lot of work getting these projects back to back like this, but we did have a great big backlog. So yeah, I think in July we can go back to just having the 2 meetings. And that's up to the board if you want to start at 7 or 7:30. At this point, we do not have a decision if we're going back to in-person meetings in July. The town board is going to discuss that tomorrow evening. And they may still leave it up to the board members, even if the town board decides to go to public meeting in person. It's going to be limited and it'll be a whole new process. But it still may be that we're doing the go-to meetings for July as well. I hope to be definitely back to normal by September. So, but yeah, we're hoping for 2 meetings in July.
Okay, anybody else have anything else to say? Cheryl, do we have to vote on the minutes or?
Yes.
I have a question for Cheryl, really quick, Chairman.
Yeah.
Cheryl, you got my, I think there was a problem with my vote on the June 10th. Is that, that's all good now?
I took care of that.
All right, thank you, Cheryl.
Okay, if there's somebody on here, caller 20, that has their microphone on, please, could you shut it off? We're getting a lot of feedback.
Okay, that's Mr. Sweeney.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm sorry. Okay, can we do all 3 meetings at the same time, or you want them separate, Cheryl?
Separate votes.
Okay. What are the dates?
May 27th,
May 27th.
June 1st,
Yeah, okay.
June 10th.
Okay, I don't remember which one I didn't chair.
May 27th.
Okay, so Mr. Young, you're gonna have to do that one, make a for, I'll do it. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of May 27th that's corrected?
Young.
Mr. Young does, Mr. Mandel seconds. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody? Okay. Make a motion to approve, June 1st meetings, minutes. Mr. Young makes the motion, Mr. Andrews seconds, all in favor? Aye, opposed? None? Okay. The June, who has a, yeah. Who wants a motion to approve the June 10th minutes as corrected? Mr. Mandel? Mr. Young seconds. Okay, all in favor?
Thank you.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else got anything else to say? Good, go to bed.
Good night. See you next week.
Good night, you all.
We need a vote to adjourn.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
That's too late. It's too late. Blame Jane on that one. She